Welcome. Good morning. How's everybody doing? So thank you for attending this first annual symposium for veteran educators and across the state. So I think there's more people coming and straggling in, and sometimes it's hard to get here, but I appreciate those that came. And I went around and said hello to a few of you. So I think we have representation from all over the state. West Texas, who's here from West Texas? The panhandle, right? See, I got over here. South Texas, right? South Coast College, I saw them here somewhere. Okay, right, I saw that, right. What about North Texas, right? North Texas. And then what about, let's see, the Central Texas, San Antonio. And then let's see, East Texas, right over there, East Texas. Good. I don't know if I missed anybody. San Antonio, I said San Antonio. I said Central Texas. Well, thank you for coming. We try, our job as the Texas Veterans Commission, we're the state agency of Veteran Affairs, everybody knows that, and our job is to advocate for all veterans, their families, and survivors on any issue. That's what we do. So one of the programs we have, of course, is veteran education, and I think you all know that. And so we're supposed to work with the schools, which are you in the audience, the people that aren't here yet, to manage a few programs. One of those is, right, to manage the oversight of administration of the use of the GI Bill. So, we approve the programs that use the GI Bill and to work with the schools to make sure that the veterans are taken care of and advocate for those veterans with the VA if there are any issues. And so I appreciate you all and who's involved with that, with the VA certificates. And then the other piece is, of course, Hazelwood, and we administer that. And again, a lot of you are involved in that as well to make sure that it's a smooth management of the Hazelwood benefit and the veteran gets their eligibility and benefit and it's processed correctly. And I think we've, over the last few years, I think we've standardized the processes across the state so that everybody's doing it the same way and the database works well and all the tools are there to make sure we administer it properly. And then we have a mandate to work with the schools to improve veteran resources on campus, to improve veteran services on campus. And that's where we have our education counselors, coordinators out in the field working with you to do just that. And again, a lot of you are involved in that as well. And so those are the three main areas that we're involved in. And so it really comes down to is that the service member, when they leave the service, and they transition out, they want to go and have productive lives. How many veterans in the audience? They're back. Almost everyone. So, how many family members are veterans? How many people have a veteran in your family? Even if you are a veteran, right? You still got that, right? So, we're attached. We know that it's not easy all the time. They serve, we serve, voluntarily, did what we were asked to do, went to where we were supposed to go, did our jobs, did our careers, and left the service, retired, ETS, left the service, medically discharged sometimes. And then, what do we want to do after that? We want to continue to serve. We want to continue to serve the community, the state, the government, the people of the state, our communities, because that's who we are. And we want to provide for our families, and we want to have a viable career. That's what we want. We want what everybody else wants in our great country. But while we were serving, what was everybody else doing? All our peers, they were getting degrees and certifications and starting their own business, and they started their own career. That's what the facts are. And so we're here to assist our veterans to make sure that they're successful in their transition to that end so that they can have a viable career, they can take care of their families, they can contribute back to the community, and they could, do what they wanted to do in the military. They do in the civilian side, and that's contribute back to society and take care of their own family and have another career. And that's what we're here to do. And the most important key to that is the university and college system. In my opinion, that is the most critical key for those individuals that are going back to school in order to get a certification or a degree. Then you have a huge impact on them in order to ensure that they're successful. Because they're not all successful. Some of them don't make it through school for a variety of reasons. So everything you can do to ensure that they have every opportunity to be successful, you're giving them a guiding hand in the right direction. You're helping them be successful so that they can achieve their goals. And it really starts at the college and university systems. And so I appreciate everything that you do to make that happen. Because if you're not there, if you didn't have better resource centers, if you didn't have academic counselors or career counselors, or you didn't have someone who was a little compassionate when they're processing their GI Bill or their Hazelwood, if you didn't have that, if we acted like bureaucrats, if we acted like state officials, because we all work for the government, unless you're in a private school, but even then, you still work in administration, right? You can be the bureaucrat. You can be that. We can be that. And don't give the best customer service. And we're not helping anybody be successful. So we have to, and I know that you all in this room do that, is have that compassion to go the step further, to give the extra helping hand, and to spread the word amongst your peers at your schools. That's just as important. So maybe you in your office does it, but what about everybody else? So when a veteran comes through, there's a little extra compassion for that veteran because, they're a little older, they've been out of school for a while, it's harder for them in some instances to acclimate to that system, and so a little compassion goes a long way. So keep up the great work. I really appreciate it, we really appreciate it, and our number one, which your number one, goal should be is customer service. And in some ways, you're our customers, and veterans are our customers and your customers. And so we need to, give the best customer service possible. So that's all I have. I appreciate you being here. I want to.
A lot of you I've met before, and it's good to see some familiar faces, and some of you I haven't met, so welcome. We're very glad that you're here, and we hope that this is a great opportunity for you to learn about all of the services that we provide as an agency, because we're very proud to work with you in those partnerships and help you serve our student veterans. As you may well know, we have two sides to our education program at the Texas Veterans Commission. One of those is our federal grant program, where we are contracted with the VA as the state approving agency. As the state approving agency, most of you already know that you have to send in your programs and your catalogs every year or every time that you have changes made to your curriculum or to your approval criteria. And we do have program specialists in the office who review those applications and compare them with the federal statute, not the state of Texas, but the federal statute that we're contracted to comply with. And they approve your programs or work with you diligently to help you get your programs into meeting approval criteria. And those are the programs that you can then certify your students for veterans benefits. In addition to this approval process, our VA team also works on compliance. And so many of you may have had the opportunity to meet some of our compliance specialists who come to your schools and take a look at your student veteran files and work with you to help you keep everything into compliance and make sure that your veterans benefits are being certified accurately and that your students are getting the benefits that they've earned and that they deserve appropriately. So we appreciate all your hard work in both of those endeavors, because we know that it can be cumbersome. We know that it can be frustrating at times, but we are trying our very best to help you get your programs approved and get those students certified properly so that everybody's getting the benefits that they deserve. On the other side of our education program is our state programs, and you may be very well familiar with Hazelwood. We administer that program. We help you as much as we can We do have a team of program specialists that are just rearing and ready to get out into the field to come to your schools and help you and take a look at 214s with you or provide you technical assistance, answer all your questions, any guidance that you may need. So at any point in time, if you would like to have someone come to your school and help you with Hazelwood, we do have a team that's ready to get out there and do that. So please just let us know. We're working right now on putting together a plan for making those visits if we don't get requests. So we might be seeing you whether you want us to or not. But it's a friendly visit. It's not in any way compliance. It's just to come and visit with you, make that face-to-face contact, and let you know that we're there to help you in any way that we can. Another portion of our state program is our education coordinators. Right now we have 3. We have Rand, whom you've met this morning. We have Pedro, who's over there in the back, Pedro, South Texas. We have Bill, who's over there in the back, and he's our North Texas up in the Dallas region. Coming very soon to East Texas, we have Tony Williams, who will take over the Houston area come 1 September. We are hiring 2 additional education coordinators right now for the San Antonio area. We received several really good applications that we're in the process of screening and hope to do some interviews the week after next. And we're also going to be hiring a new education coordinator for our West Texas region. So in West Texas, we're getting ready to advertise that position, and we're hoping to get some awesome candidates, maybe some people from, it could even be one of you who's here from West Texas, if you decided that you wanted to join our team and become an education coordinator to liaise with the schools in the West Texas region and help us provide all of those services that Rand just explained to you a few minutes ago. So that's the extent of the two sides of our education program. These are our regions, and as I mentioned, West Texas is that big purple area in number 6, and that is where we are really strongly looking for a quality representative to join our education coordinator team. Bill is there in the blue, Pedro's down there in the green, Tony's going to be taking over yellow, Rand has the orange, and in Region 3 is our San Antonio region that we're screening right now that I mentioned. As the SAA, I kind of told you guys all of this stuff before I got to this slide, but the SAA, this is, again, our state recruiting agency. This is the piece where we manage those programs. We operate as part of the government of Texas. We maintain the state's authority to approve or disapprove the programs, and we're contracted by the VA to perform these functions. Approving and monitoring the schools, conducting compliance visits. We also provide technical assistance. Is Michael in here, or is he still out at the table? Okay, so with us today, out there at our information table, we have our program specialist, Michael Butler. He's our compliance specialist in the San Antonio area. My compliance team goes around, they provide technical assistance. So again, if you need help on the GI Bill side of the house, and you would like for someone to come out and help, you have a VA1 problem, or you're not quite sure of certain interpretations, anywhere that you think that you might need technical assistance, we do have staff. Our compliance team mostly goes out to do technical assistance to the schools to make sure that you understand your roles and responsibilities as school certifying officials. We also conduct outreach. So when you have job fairs and benefits fairs and other veteran-centric happenings in your area, if you don't see one of us there, please try to let us know that you have something like that coming up, because we'll be more than happy to get representation at your event so that we can provide that information to your students. We want to be there to do that outreach. Another part of our outreach is that we do go to the transition assistance program briefings when the veterans are transitioning from active service into the civilian world. So we do have representatives that go and do briefs at TAP as well. So we can do that too. And if you know of a TAP program at a military base near you that we don't have representation, let us know, and we'll make sure that we get someone going to that. So those are our 2 different types of outreach that we do, directly to the veterans and then also to you as the schools and in the other areas. So some points of contact, there's mine. I also have my new operations manager who's with us here today, and that's Ms. Tina Marbury, who's, if Tina, you want to wave so people can see who you are. Some of you may remember Merle, who used to be our operations manager in the Vets Ed program, but Merle has retired and Tina is our new manager, and we're excited to have her on board. We also do have Virgie, who's our federal reports analyst, and we have another staff services officer that we just made recommendation to hire yesterday, so we have some more new staff coming on board, people who can help you when you call in and you need assistance. Our program specialists, these are the folks who are on the VA contract, and in our Dallas region, we have Tara Monk and Linda Alexander, so some of you may know those two ladies. In Houston, we have Teresa Gibson and Melanie Moynihan. Again, you may know her. Michael Butler, our San Antonio representative, again, he's outside in the front. Miss Debbie Bush is retiring at the end of this month, so we are also replacing her position. And our Austin headquarters, mostly our approvals team right now, is Mr. Tony Williams. Again, he's transitioning over to education coordinator in September. And we have Darlene Cote, Ryan Blankenship, Andrea Watts, and Rose Marino. So when Tony transitions, we'll also be replacing his position. So we have a lot of new blood coming into Vets Ed, and we're really excited because we're hoping that it will be some of you. And in our West Texas region, we have Miss Shelley. She goes by Shelley Olak. Her first name is actually Lenore. So the types of schools and training establishments that we work with, in addition to colleges and universities, we work with career schools, police and fire academies, barber and cosmetology schools, massage therapy, Bible schools, flight schools, apprenticeships and OJTs. So some of you may know students who are transitioning from your institutions, and maybe they're getting a job and they're going somewhere where they might be eligible for OJT. So it's quite possible that the OJT program that they're in is also an approvable program. Now, the OJT site doesn't get paid money from the VA, but the student can receive a portion of their VAH while they're working in on-the-job training, and then that just enhances their wage. So, you know, if a person's in an apprenticeship or an OJT situation, they're usually hired at a lesser amount of money than what the journeyman is getting paid. If that OJT or apprenticeship program is approved, they can help supplement that with a portion of their VAH. So that portion starts out at a higher amount, and it increments lower and lower and lower as time goes by, because the idea is that the wage increases. So as the wage increases, the VAH reduces, but this is information that you can then share with your students who might be transitioning into a job where the job could get approved for OJT. And if your student knows that, then they can go to that employer and ask for that employer to maybe take a look at their program and see if they can get it approved, and that's another way that we can serve our student veterans. Any questions on the federal part before I move on to some of the state? Okay. So again, we mentioned that we do Hazelwood. We administer the tuition and fees exemption program. We have rulemaking authority in consultation with the coordinating board and with you, the institutions of higher education. We're obligated by statute to assist veterans and their benefits, so we do provide customer service via phone calls, via emails to students directly. We also conduct outreach in accordance with the same guidelines that we just talked about with our VA side. We assist you in determining veteran eligibility. We do help you. We answer your phone calls. We send you emails so that you can administer your individual Hazelwood programs at your school. We also maintain the database to monitor the exemption use. Some of you may be very well versed on that and involved in submitting that report to the database after each semester. Again, the school is the final decision-making authority on how you administer your Hazelwood program. A little bit of an update on the lawsuit. In January of 2015, you may remember that the Southern District of Texas ruled that the veterans must have entered the service in Texas in order to be eligible to receive the Hazelwood exemption. And then in May 12th, the Attorney General filed an appeal. On June 23rd of 2016, the Circuit Court of Appeals reversed the District Court's decision, and in January of this year, the Supreme Court declined to review the case. So everything as we know it with Hazelwood remains the same as it was before the whole lawsuit occurred. With a rulemaking update, summary of the most recent rules revisions was enforcement of the reporting deadlines, conversion of continuing education units to credit hours. We came up with a method for you to do that if your schools do provide the Hazelwood exemption for continuing ed courses. Now you have this formula to use to convert those continuing ed units into semester hours so that you can then charge that against the students' 150 hours of exemption. We refined the initial training and tax return definition. Electronic applications were allowed, minimum record retention policy requirements, incorporated rules and guidance that were already being issued by the TDC. And those rules, if you need to find them, are located at Title 40 in the Administrative Code under 461. And then we are currently contemplating an additional round of rulemaking to capture additional data that was considered during the most recent legislative session. So be on the lookout for some more information on that to follow. Other services that we can provide you with Hazelwood, as I mentioned, we have that team of experts who are waiting to get out into the field and work with you directly if you would like. They can talk to you, they can talk to your deans, they can talk to your faculty, they can do presentations for your students and students' families. You know, whatever your need is, we're there to assist. We could also do this via Skype and, you know, the in-person visit. This is the link to the Hazelwood information to your interface for the database. And if you have students with Hazelwood questions, we do ask that you send them to our webpage so that they can take a look at the information that's there. Sometimes students get frustrated, especially at this time of the year, and you understand as well as we do that it's busy in August, it's fall registration, everybody needs what they need and they need it right now. And if we are all on the phone, they're going to get referred to a voicemail, they may get frustrated, and we certainly don't want that to happen. So what we ask is that when you do direct students to us, and we don't mind that you do, but if you would please have them go look at our website as well, because maybe they can get their question answered just by reading the information that's there. And if they're not actually able to get a person on the phone because that person is already on the phone with someone else, then maybe we can help alleviate some of that frustration. So we can take care of our students that way as well. Our Hazelwood points of contact, right now we have Charles Bryant, who's also sitting here. He's here to help you today and answer your questions should you have any. We have Ms. Brina Bridgman, Matt Spanchenberg, and Sesha Colby. And we will also be hiring one additional Hazelwood program specialist to administer our program. Any questions on Hazelwood at this point? Okay, so our education coordinator program, again, their mission statement is to partner with the schools and colleges, with veteran service organizations, with state and federal government to advocate for, provide information and superior service to the veterans in the area of education, claims representation and counseling, employment services, fund for veteran assistance, anything that we can help provide that will significantly enhance the life of our veterans and their families. Their vision statement is to ensure that all veterans and their families understand and receive all of the benefits and support, care, and recognition that they have earned and that they are entitled to by expertly administering the current and future programs, anticipating the future needs and actions required to meet those needs, and this is for our student veterans. Senate Bill 1158, signed into law in 2013, is where the statute came from that established our education coordinator program. The intent is to create a hospitable and supportive environment for our students and their families to enhance their awareness of all of the programs that the TDC has to offer. And that's why we have you here today, because we want to showcase for you all of our services that we provide as an agency. We have 400 staff at the TDC who are dedicated. 80% of those staff are veterans themselves, and we all care about our fellow veterans, and we want to do the best for them and provide the best services. So we want to partner with you and help you understand all of the services that we have to provide so that we can take care of our students best and that you can take care of your students best. Enhance the awareness of all those programs, as I mentioned, and to promote the establishment of an effective and sustained student veterans group on each campus. And we recognize that it's very difficult sometimes, and I come from the community college background. You know, I get it firsthand how it was so very hard to keep a student veterans organization functioning at a community college. There's a lot of different challenges at the different types of schools. I think maybe universities have a little bit easier keeping your organizations functioning and effective for your students because your students are there for 4 years. You know, you have a different breed of students usually at a university than what we might see at a community college. My challenge at the community college level when I was at the community college at Del Mar and Corpus Christi was turnover. You know, I had a lot of students all the time, but they didn't stay very long. For one, most of them were just in there for a certificate program, right? So they could probably do that in 1 or 2 semesters. Some stayed actually to get an associate's degree, but most of my students were single parents or working full-time in addition to trying to pull a full-time course load and didn't have a whole lot of time to dedicate to a student organization, you know, so it was very difficult to keep that operational and functioning efficiently. But we want to do whatever it is that we can help you do to get your student veteran associations established and to keep those running effectively so that that can be another resource and another service that you provide to your student veterans. So whatever we can do to help you in that regard, please do reach out and let us know. We also work with the community organizations and the state and national veteran service organizations to promote veterans education benefits. So there are, you know as well as we do that every community has several different organizations that are interested in helping veterans and want to provide services to veterans. We just have to get out there and find those. So our education coordinators are here to help you navigate that roadway and to also work with you and partner with you and these outside organizations to bring those services to your students. We work with the local workforce development board to ensure that the education counselors and the employers are aware of the non-traditional opportunities for veterans. Again, going back to that OJT and apprenticeship piece that I mentioned earlier. We work with military education counselors to provide those veterans with information about their state and federal benefits as they exit the service. We want to create and manage a publicity campaign, all of the TDC with you, the institutions of higher education, to promote the GI Bill in the Hazelwood and to promote services and benefits for the veteran students. We provide the support programs for combat veterans to readjust. We maintain statistical information regarding the demographics of the students assisted and who are successful, and we want to enhance the opportunities of the veterans and their family members. And so this is a little model that just shows how we all interact with each other, all of the different services that the TDC provides, the community, the schools, the colleges, and the education coordinator should be the centerpiece of that to bring all of those pieces into one and synchronize those efforts. So at this point in time, our education coordinator contacts, as I previously introduced, are Pedro, Bill, and Rand. And Tony will be joining the team, and we'll have 2 others coming up soon. Contact information should you need to reach our program. And that's all I have for you.
Can y'all hear me back there? Okay. Hello. Good morning. Wake up. Go get some tea. So I'm Julie Pouzan. I am the operations manager for the Claims Representation and Counseling Program. Really quick, wanted to shout out that the director of the Claims Representation and Counseling Program, Victor Polanco's back there. Stand up and say hi, Victor. Can everybody see me? Because I feel like y'all probably can't. But I am here. Okay, so getting started with the claims program. Let's go ahead and... Okay, so you can kind of see on there, I don't want to read verbatim everything on there, but this is kind of like our mission for the claims program. The main thing is that we serve veterans, their dependents, and survivors in matters pertaining to veterans, state, and federal disability benefits and entitlements. That's why we are here. We are the designated state agency, so kind of as Rand was explaining, you have VA, you have national, like VFW, DAV, American Legion. You have county, which is the County Veteran Service Officers, and we're in the middle. We're the state. So we are that state advocate between the veteran and the VA. Most of our counselors, with the exception of, I believe, 1, are all veterans throughout the state. So we've all been through the process, and we are very familiar with it. We lead the state we lead all other state in monetary recovery. So last year, just to kind of put in perspective, last year we brought in over $3 billion into the state of Texas through veterans compensation and benefits. Also, to kind of give an idea of how huge our program is, last year we represented over 240,000 veterans throughout the state of Texas. So we do kind of lead the nation with the state organizations. Okay, so getting into the different functions of the claims program. So we have the claims counselors. Those are the everyday in the VA clinics, some of the outpatient clinics, CBOCs. You're going to see those claims counselors in those areas because that's where the veterans are. We do have several stationed on some military installations, but for those that are getting out of the military, but we primarily are housed in the VA facilities. They focus on service-connected and non-service-connected claims. So as Rand was saying, you hurt your knee in the military, you need to get out, you need to go file some disability, we're the people you would go see. Non-service connected pensions, basically for wartime veterans, it's an income-based monetary benefit for those low-income wartime veterans. We also help with VA appeals preparation and representation. So these counselors are located in the regional offices in Waco and in Houston. And their main focus, they see veterans as well on a walk-in basis, but their main focus really is those appeals preparation and representation. We talked about the VA pensions, survivor benefits. If a veteran passes away, their spouse can come and get help from us just as if they were the veteran. We treat them the same. They get no different treatment. And we will help them through the death benefit claims process, which can be quite confusing specifically for spouses. And yeah, going into the death and burial benefits. So if a veteran passes away, that's talking about the headstone, the burial plots, all of that information. We have information on all of that. So those are our regular claims counselors. We also have fully developed claims counselors throughout the state. They are also sprinkled kind of throughout the state. Some of them are at VAs. The majority are in VA clinics and outpatient clinics. And what they do is they focus on submitting fully developed claims for veterans. So these are the claims that when a veteran walks in and they say, I'd like to file a claim, I've never filed before, or I'd like an increase, they help them through the process beforehand to where they've got everything they need to submit that claim, and they submit it at the initial time, and it's supposed to offer a much faster decision. So it's definitely the way to go. We're pushing fully developed claims, which is why we now have designated FDC counselors. State strike force teams. So state strike force is kind of like our secret weapon at Texas Veterans Commission. What they do is they help reduce the federal backlog of veterans' claims and appeals. They work hand in hand with the VA. So the great thing about our state strike force team members is that these are people that have retired from the VA, whether they're retired decision review officers or retired raters. And once they retire from the VA, we pull them into the Texas Veterans Commission and put them on the strike force team. So they are, as I like to refer to, our secret weapon. If we've got a really tricky claim going on and we're not, getting anywhere, our counselors are reaching out to the VA and they're not getting anywhere, then we pull out the big dogs. And we've done that several times, and they can usually, because of the relationship they have with the VA, most of the people actually worked in that VA that they're housed in now. So for instance, Waco, our Waco strike force supervisor used to be housed in the Waco VA, so she still has that relationship with the regional office director. So those are our secret weapons, and the same thing for the Houston strike force. They have that relationship that our counselors are trying to get, but just don't have. So they've done such a great job reducing the backlog that now they're really focusing on keeping it reduced, and they're starting to expand, and they do quite a bit more initiatives. We just rolled out with a new claims process, decision ready claim. It is supposed to offer, if everything is right and it meets the criteria, it should give a decision in 30 days or less. So they are heading up this project. It's fairly new, and we are still working on the procedural pieces and everything, but they are the ones that are kind of initiating and heading this project. Okay. So just to kind of give a snapshot of where we are, I know the map is a little small. You can also get this off of our website, tvc.texas.gov. Right now, we're sitting at about 128 staff. We usually stay about that 128, 132. So I like to say 130 as an average. We have 37 full-time and 5 part-time offices throughout the state of Texas. And the offices are located, as I mentioned, in the VA regional offices, which is in Waco and Houston, medical facilities, so the bigger facilities like Temple and Audie Murphy, the VA clinics, which would be your smaller ones like the Austin Outpatient Clinic and Frank Tejeda, for example, and then C-Box. So the C-Box is I think it's clinic or community-based outpatient clinic. And those are the real small. So for example, New Braunfels has a C-Box. I think Odessa has a C-Box. So they're really the smaller areas. We don't have counselors in every C-Box, but most of the time we kind of cover part-time. So that's where those part-time offices come in. So if you're looking at the map, we've got, looking at military installations, we have somebody based out of Fort Bliss in El Paso. We've got somebody based out of Shepherd Air Force Base. We have someone in Fort Hood in Killeen, Fort Sam in San Antonio. Actually, we have 2 in Fort Sam now. And all the way down in Corpus, the Naval Air Station. So quite a bit of coverage throughout the state on the military installations. And they're really good. Those claims counselors, they build that relationship with the TAP personnel and a lot of the military officials. So whenever there's a TAP program, a lot of times they can get on, they can give the brief on, hey, this is what you need to do to get a claim going. And they really just have a good rapport with the military installations. So they're a great benefit for our program. How can we help colleges, universities, and their student veterans? So these are some of the things that we already do. We're always willing to expand on services, and basically anytime somebody puts in a request, we try to see if we can meet it. So just to give an idea, we attend resource and benefit fairs on campuses. I know when I was at the Austin Outpatient Clinic as a claims counselor, we had a designated counselor every month. He went to UT, and he went to ACC. So he would go every month, and that's what he did. So anytime there's a resource or benefit fair, we've done stuff at TWU. I mean, we do it all. If you have something going on, let us know, and we'll be there. We provide public information briefings on benefits, so stuff like this. If you have a symposium or you have outside of a resource and benefit fair, maybe you want to put on a presentation. When I was in the employment program, I went down to Texas State University and I would give employment briefings when they would have their VATS, the Veterans Alliance of Texas, or anyways, it was really neat. And I would go there, and during their little VATS breakout, I would give briefings on Texas Veterans Commission and employment services. So we can do the same thing for claims benefits. So if you have something like that you would like us to come in on, please contact me and we can get that going for you. We also assist veterans with filling out GI Bill and VOC rehab applications to obtain certificate of eligibility. So we are not education specialists, but we have been helping them fill out the paperwork for a very long time, especially the VOC rehab. When they go for the VOC rehab, we route it through the VA facilities, and then they get it to the VOC rehab counselor because it's a different benefit than the GI Bill. It doesn't go through the same channels. So we get VOC rehab applications quite a bit. So if anybody has any questions and they need help with it, we can certainly help them with that. Lastly, we collaborate with other local veterans partners to provide maximum awareness and assistance. This is basically what we're doing today. You know, anytime anybody has an alliance going on or a coalition, we always try to provide somebody from Texas Veterans Commission and also from claims. An example, we have the Veterans Intervention Project here in Austin that we have been a part of for a long time. We like to be a part of that stuff. So it's good because we are the subject matter experts. So in that specific instance, when it's talking about, you know, veterans and incarceration and them coming out, we can offer that expertise. So if you know of a coalition that we're not on, please again reach out to me and I'd love to get somebody on there. Okay, so lastly, I'm going to talk about some of our partners, and I kind of mentioned them already, but Looking at the Veterans Land Board, so we have a Veterans Land Board call center, and there's an MOU between the Texas Veterans Commission and the VLB, and basically they provide and house the call center employees, and then we train them. So when we have our initial trainings that we have, just like we have for all of our new employees or Veterans County Service Officers, we bring them in and we train them. And it's, again, in our MOU. Some of the things they do for us is they track the number of calls. So we were able to see, there was a report that went out, I think it was last month, and we were able to see how many calls pertaining to claims representation and counseling came from the call center. So it's very beneficial, and we really do help each other. There's a lot of other things we do together. Veterans Land Board puts on the resource fairs you've probably seen throughout the state. We go and we always provide people to attend those as the subject matter experts for claims. So there, again, we always just keep them in mind. This year, for example, they're going to come to our fall conference training and teach about the Veterans Land Board programs. So it's a really great collaboration we have. Going to the Veteran County Service Officers, you probably have any of y'all heard of Veteran County Service Officers? Do you know your CSO? All right, good. I like to see that. Okay, so what they do is they act as a liaison between veterans and their families in obtaining benefits from the VA, very similar to what we do. But they work for the county, we work for the state. So we have a state mandate that we provide all training to the Veteran County Service Officers. So if they are certified or accredited, that means they have been trained by us. They have gone through our training. We treat them essentially like we treat our own. So when we're planning things like training programs and things like that, initial training, fall conference, virtual training, we always keep them in mind just like they're our own employees because they're such a big part of who we are. We work very well with them. A lot of times, they're very beneficial because a lot of times, let's say there's a veteran who can't get out, maybe they're in a nursing home or something, and we don't actually cover that area, and they need to go, somebody needs to go there. A lot of times we can call them and they can get there very quickly, whereas for us, we may have to, depending on if maybe it's a one-person office and they can't leave the office at the time, so they're very beneficial. They can do home visits, they can go out in the public and meet veterans, and sometimes they're there where we're not, so we definitely cherish that relationship. And we also have a VCSO advisory committee that we hold, so they're able to come in and discuss concerns or maybe ideas with us. And we also attend their VSOT, which is the association, VCSO association. So again, very close collaboration with the VCSOs. And if you need, or your students need to know who their local VCSO is, we actually list them in the directory on the TVC website. So you could go to tvc.texas.gov, you can find the staff directory under information, and the county veteran service officers, there is an area for that. So you can see it's very up to date as well. Okay, going to the VA. So the VA is a big partner of ours because they house a lot of our claims counselors. Again, talking previously about the state strike force, that's a partnership on another level. It's just one of those where they really listen to them and they listen to us, and it's a very good partnership and collaboration. So we do a lot with the VA, and they provide a lot for us and help us out too. And then lastly, going to the military installations, which I did kind of touch on. Again, our TVC counselors provide assistance to active duty personnel and their dependents. So if you have a spouse, maybe somebody's getting ready to retire or separate, and their spouse, because they're going to relocate, needs employment help too, or claims help, that's what those counselors near base is for. So they also help retirees and veterans. Anytime there's an event on base, anybody is welcome, they're there. Let's see. So I think I have covered everything.
All right, once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here today. Before we light them up, like I said, anybody who's ever seen me, heard me, or had to see me and hear me knows that I'm going to share some funny thoughts and some funny things as we go around to keep everybody engaged and focused. What we do in Veteran Employment Services is right along that path that you all do. Our goal is to see our veterans, whether they're getting out of the service, whether they've been in that veteran status for 30 or 40 years, or if they're graduating, and coming out of the institutions of higher education to get the best employment opportunities possible. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do as our program, and then I'm going to take a step down. I'm going to talk to you some things that hopefully will help you or make you think a little bit and to pass on to those students out there that you have or those that come to see you as you're going through. So as we talked about, the Texas Veterans Commission, we are kind of unique in what we do, as we are the only state in the nation that has the Veterans Employment Program underneath a Veterans Commission window. All of our other counterparts within the states, the other states, they all belong to that workforce systems, whatever that state name may be. But here in Texas, we are one band of group. We all work together. If it's got the name veteran attached, it falls underneath the Texas Veterans Commission. That allows us a little bit of latitude in what we do and how we do it. And it also helps us do our job a little bit better, because our staff are dedicated to making sure that those veterans that come and see us or that have that employment need are being taken care of. So as you can see on there, our mission, one of those things is to provide sound job coaching. And as we talk about our different areas and roles of responsibility, you're going to see that we have a large group of our people that do that career advising and that intensive services and case management. But that's our goal, long-term and meaningful employment. We want those folks that are come see us, or even if they don't see us, and they see our workforce center partners, or they come to you in your career services at your universities. Those are the people that we want to see succeed. We want to be a part of that success. In my time here with the Texas Veterans Commission and Veterans Employment Services, that's been one of the greatest things I see. I get to see all these success stories all the time. And it makes me proud. And it makes our staff proud when they have that veteran come in and say, hey, thank you. That's what it's all about. We do it for them. That's our customer. We have a whole lot of partners. We have a whole lot of stakeholders. But everything that we do is focused on the success of that veteran in the employment field. So now, as we talked about, we're broken out into several different divisions. We have our Family Employment Division, which is really small. Those are based upon our major military installations up at Fort Hood and down in the San Antonio area. What they do is they primarily work with that group of family members, whether they be a family member of a wounded warrior that has to provide that care, or just a spouse that's transitioning to that military installation under orders of their significant other. So they work with that family, and they also work with our staff. Our Career Resource Division. Those are the folks that are out there that are mainly dealing with the veterans on a one-to-one basis, primarily in the case management type. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the federal mandates are as it comes to those significant barriers to employment. So these are the people that are working with those that are in the greatest need for professional advice, direction, and overcoming that barrier that maybe exists for employment. Now, for many of you in the higher education field, whether you're in the Student Veterans Association or that institute, the university's Veterans Resource Center, one of those categories that fall under this federal role are those disabled veterans. So those folks, if they come in with a VA compensation rating, those are automatically eligible to see our Veterans Career Advisors and the Career Resource Divisions. So if you have those folks and they bring that up to you, please connect with our staff out there throughout the state, because once again, those are the people that these folks are designed to assist and work with on a one-to-one basis. Our Veterans Recruitment Division. This is a little bit smaller than the Career Resource Division. What these folks do are they are out there in the communities. They're the ones working with employers, going out meeting with them day in and day out, advocating for opportunities in veterans within that organization. They also do several different things with them. They do hiring events. They also go in and they do technical assistance. They go in and they help employers develop that job notice, that's going to attract and qualify those veterans that they may be looking for. So these are the folks that are dealing one-on-one with the employers. Now, as the employer's going out there and they said, hey, great, I've been looking to hire veterans. I'm glad you came in. I'm glad you made this appointment with me. How do I do that? These are the folks that are kind of working with them on building a step and a process in there. There's even a lot of them that have helped them, organizations, establish a veterans program, whether that be preference in hiring or an all-encompassing focus of, not only do we get them into the organization, but how can we make our organization more veteran-friendly? Organizing different events for like veteran recognition days, on Veterans Day, Memorial Day, doing different things. So these are the folks that are out there that is advocating to that organization and to that employer. Here's why you should hire veterans. Here's how we can help you. And these folks are going to be of great asset to you, especially in the student or veterans organizations, the universities. Because a lot of veterans, when they get out there and they get in that higher education field, sometimes they tend to forget, I'm still a veteran. I still have other avenues out there that I just don't have to utilize that university's career services. I can also reach out beyond the walls of that university, and I can start taking a look at, what organizations are veteran friendly? What organizations have veterans preference? And when these folks are out there, our veterans employer liaisons, a lot of you in the student veterans organizations and the universities, these are people that are attractive to those employers. So we got the people working with the employers, and that's what we want to do, is we want to be able to build that conduit. What is that path that we as Veterans Employment Services can do, to help those veterans, which are focused, but also help that employer to strengthen that relationship? Because what happens a lot of time is that employer, they get that good candidate, and our staff has helped find that candidate for them. After that, we just moved up on the Rolodex. We're on speed dial now. They're like, hey, I remember you brought me John. I remember you brought Sue. She's working out great. Do you have any more like that? Let me dig in my database. Let me start reaching out. Let me go. So building those relationships is beneficial for us. It's beneficial for you. And most of all, it's benefit for that veteran, because that's where our focus is at. So as we talked about, we got several different names out there for our folks. We have our family career advisors. Those are the ones that are mainly aboard the installations, working with those family members. We have our veteran career advisors. Those are out there in the American Job Centers, or what we know here in Texas as the Workforce Solutions. So we have over 81 Workforce Solutions centers out there in the state of Texas that our Veterans Careers Advisors are located in. Throughout the state, we have 107 Veteran Career Advisors that work for the Texas Veterans Commission. So we're everywhere. And you can be able to reach out to us, reach out to me. We'll get you talking to those folks in your community that's going to be that best resource for you. Our rural Veteran Career Advisors. Those are normally the single office places where we don't have quite a veteran presence, but there's still that veteran need. So a lot of them will just have one person out in that office. Now the good thing about these folks, most of them, they are in communities. They build that relationship. They have that strength. Not only are they working with the veterans, but these rural career advisors, they're also working with employers. So they have both avenues covered there. Our vocational rehabilitation and employment counselors. The vast majority of these are located within the VA facilities that do the VRNE program. Now, the good thing about these, once again, is we talked about that disabled veteran. They're automatically qualified for our employment services. they could be qualified for a VRE program as well. So if we start talking together, it's that veteran focus. There may be things that veteran don't know that our staff, have you thought about? Well, you know, I'm running out of my GI Bill money. Boom, have you looked at VRE? What's VRE? Well, let me tell you what VRE is. So there's a lot of different things that there's a benefit for all if we work together, just like Tammy and her group with education has brought in all the different programs together. We as TVC, we work together because each one of us can amplify the success of the other. And that's what we want to do with our veterans. We want to be able to amplify and complement that success. Our regional outreach coordinators, we have 5 of them throughout the state. These are the folks that are basically out there telling our communities about the opportunities and services that we as the TVC provide. They're also the ones that are out there putting on social media, marketing, different events that are coming up, whether it be job fairs, job clubs, orientation sessions, different things like that. So if you don't know who your regional outreach coordinator for VES is in the community, contact them. We'll get you in touch with them so you can start getting into that and integrating in that as part of your veterans organizations or your career services out there as well. Our veterans employer liaison. We have 42 of those throughout the state of Texas. The vast majority of them are up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and the Houston area. We do have a couple out in El Paso and other areas. As we talked about, these are the folks that are out there shaking hands and advocating with employers, helping them to organize events, helping them to determine, hey, what's a qualified veteran? How do I read this Veterans DD 214? How do I make my job notice veteran friendly? So these are the folks that are that direct link into that employment opportunity out there. We also have a veteran employer liaison public entity, started a few years ago. That person's main responsibility is to work with employers in the government sector. Because we all know the government sector has what? They have veteran preference, right? They also have veteran hiring mandates. One of the things we found out is that especially in that government sector, everybody's got that mandate, but not everybody that's responsible for that understands that veteran community. Well, how do I read the DD 214? How do I do this? How do I understand what preference is? So we started out with one, and this year we're actually going to have 3 of them throughout the state. One of them mainly here in Austin, another one up in Dallas-Fort Worth, and another one down in San Antonio, to specifically advocate and work with that government sector at all levels, federal, state, local, and city, to better provide those opportunities for our veterans and to help that government sector get some qualified candidates in there. We are a federally mandated program. Like we talked about, we're different in Texas, but every state has a employment services out there. So what are our roles and responsibilities in that? Sometimes our veterans, they feel like Sheldon looking at all those calculations and figures up there, right? It's confusing. What do I do? I'm lost. I don't know. Leonard, where you at? So sometimes that job search, and you all understand it, from either a career services or an institution of higher education perspective, and also as a veteran. Where do I start going? For us within the Texas Veterans Commission and Veterans Employment Services, our main source for finding candidates or that job search activity is through the state job board, which is workintexas.com. Now, all government agencies within the state are required to post their jobs on workintexas.com now. A lot of private sector employers are putting them out there. Our veterans employer liaisons, when they're meeting with these organizations and employers, they're advocating for that employer. Put that job out there so our veterans can see it. Put that out there where our veterans can apply. Another great resource out there. How many of you all are familiar with LinkedIn? one of the largest professional networking organizations and groups out there. It's kind of like the Facebook of professionals. How many of you all know, whether you're a student veteran, a career resource center, or in the institutions of higher education, LinkedIn has a free premium account that every veteran's eligible for. So these veterans can have an extended opportunity out there in that job market. They get a free premium account. That's just like getting Amazon Prime for free. They have different capabilities out there. They can reach out to these employers without having to wait through that please accept my invitation process. LinkedIn is expanding. They're also going to go in there, and they've already started creating a foundation for a job database in there. So once again, these are another tools and resources out there for our veterans, whether you're in the veteran associations or that career resource center. Things to help them understand that there's opportunities and there's availabilities out there. Once again, each one of your universities, community colleges, you all have your own job board. You got folks out there in the employment field that are reaching out to you saying, hey, I'm looking for, or this is a degree base that I want to hire for. So once again, another resource, and we're a force multiplier. If they're out there on all three of these, and there's dozens of other ones out there, but the more that they expose themselves to employment opportunities, the better the opportunities become. Because now I don't have to take that, whoa, yeah, I get this entry-level position for $17.38, but because you're a college graduate, we'll give you $17.75 now. So as they expand their horizons, expand their opportunities, expand their network, it better enables us all together to work together on the benefit for that veteran. We covered a little bit what our staff does, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about some of the mechanics of that and what those roles and responsibilities are. We look at it from 4 pillars. Referrals. Are we doing our role? And what are our responsibilities? So as we tie all those together, then once again, that focus on the veteran is more stable. We're able to better perform and better results. So first thing we talked about, those American Job Centers, the Texas Workforce Solutions Centers out there. For those that we talked about the significant barriers to employment that our veteran career advisors work with, when they come into that American Job Center, they have to be assessed by the staff first. Do they meet the criteria, the eligibilities to sit down or to be referred to our staff? Now, if they don't meet those criteria, then each center has what they call a priority of service. So that veteran coming in, as long as they're in that veteran status, it's ahead of the line, front of the line privileges. So if there's a line of 30 out there and they identify themselves as a veteran, then they're the next on the list to go up and see that employment services counselor within the center. Now, it also applies to additional training and funding. If there's availability and they meet the eligibility requirements for that program, once again, they move to the top of the list because they're a veteran. Now, I've heard it several times. I don't personally agree with it, but I can understand some people's perception. A lot of people they come in and they say, well, I didn't want to identify myself as a veteran, because sometimes there's negative connotations that go to that. But I'm saying if they identify themselves, there's a lot more positive, and there's a lot more people out there that can provide assistance, provide guidance, provide direction, than if you don't identify yourself. Once again, we talked about they're going to be assessed. Do they meet that significant barrier to employment? What are the triage tools? What do we go through? So they're going to be, I've identified, as we determine, disabled veteran, that's all I got to answer. I'm a disabled veteran. Boom, here you go. Let me refer you over to the Texas Veterans Commission. So once again, the more hands that are out there to help, the better off we all are as we take a look at that individual veteran. As we talked about, there's other employment opportunities and programs out there. The VRE, it's a great tool. A lot of people, when they come in, they're like, man, I just need a job. Well, here's how we can help you. Have you looked at? A lot of them coming out now, as we know, a lot of our transitioning service members, they got great skill sets, great training while in their military. But what's that one problem that happens once they leave that gate? Certifications and licensing, right? So there's a lot of ways that VRNA program can help them get that additional training to get beyond that barrier of I don't have the license or I don't have the certification. I got 23 years as a nurse within the Army, but I don't have my RN license. Meet all the criteria, all the qualifications, but I don't have. So that's one of the ways our staff and our partners out there can better assist that veterans as they're coming to help take a look at where do we need to go to resolve this. Once again, we saw Sheldon up there all dazed and confused. A lot of times, if you don't know that government system, you don't know, okay, boom, I need to go to the Board of Nursing to take a look in and see what their expedited, proven method is for nurses coming out of the military. So that's what our staff can help do. Our Career Resource Division, their main goal is job readiness. How do I get that individual veteran to a job ready status? And that can vary. Like I said, sometimes it could be training. Sometimes it could be, boom, I just don't know how to do my resume. I don't know how to translate my skills from an artilleryman into customer service. So that's what our staff do. They have all these resources and a lot of great training out there that they can assist, sit down, help that veteran get job ready. Our recruitment capacity. How do we get that candidate pool out there for those employers? I'll tell you, one of the great successes we have, and we've created a great partnership with them, and it's because of our staff that does this day out, day in and day out. How many of y'all ever heard of Aetna? The insurance agency? They have two major customer service areas up in Dallas and San Antonio. Mark Walls from Aetna will call us a week before they're getting ready to post their jobs. And he will say, hey, we're looking for 32 customer service representatives in location X. Over the course of the past 18 months that I've been in my capacity up at headquarters, they have never had to post a job because our staff in those areas inundate them with qualified candidates. We're doing Mark's job for him, and we enjoy it because what? We're helping those veterans better their lives, and we're veteran focused. So those are just some of the successes that we see. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of organizations out there that before they go anywhere else, they're going to call us because we do what we do because we have a passion for it. So we're veteran focused, and each and every one of our staff that do this, they're veterans themselves. 98% of them have sat on the opposite side of that desk as a job seeker. And when that opportunity opens up, they're like, man, I remember what TVC did for me during my job search. I want to do that for somebody else. And they come in and they succeed because they got that passion. And that's what our veterans need. Just like they need your all's passion at that university level, that career services. That helps us succeed. So one of the things we talk about in our career resource division, intensive services. That could vary at different levels depending on what that barrier is or what that need of the veteran is. They may come in for a qualifying eligibility, like we talked about as a disabled veteran, but they may not be their only barrier to employment. They may say, well, you know, my 20% VA disability that I'm receiving is not really affecting my job search or my ability to perform a job. That ability lies here. So they provide that in terms of service, a holistic approach. Hey, you come in for a qualifying factor, that doesn't mean that's the only thing we got to help you fix or with you travel down that road with. We take a look at the whole thing. What do you want? What are your career goals? What are you lacking to reach that point that you need? What are some other contributing factors that may be holding you back? We talked about, we have the priority of service out there. Special disabled veterans and other disabled veterans. One of the major qualifying factors that helps them get in our arms as they come in so we can do what we enjoy. We have a case management approach on it. Some of those that come to see us, hey, it may be a simple thing. Okay, we just need to work on your resume a little bit. Get this up to speed. Start getting that out. Start helping you in your job search. Some of them may have a problem that requires a long-term solution. And we go through a case management process on that. That veteran or our staff member sits down. They take a look at, okay, what are my obstacles? What do we need to do to overcome them? And they work together on that. It's just not, okay, here you go, here's your 3x5 card, here's what you need to do, come back and see me in 6 months when you're ready. No. They maintain contact with them. Hey, how you going? Hey, come back in and see me. We just got this opportunity, or I took a look at your resume. There's probably some additional things that we can do. I got a job from an employer. We can probably tailor your resume a little bit to make you qualified or help you get qualified for that position. So once again, it's that we all need a hug sometimes. That's what Coach Management is about. We bring that veteran in, we give them that hug, and we walk with them through that process. On our Veterans Employment Liaisons out there, once again, we talk about they're out there, they're working with the Chambers of Commerce. They're working with your local SHRM organizations. They're working with employers. They're helping them organize events. They're organizing events for them and just sending them out. Invitation. They also do events, because how many of you all have ever been to a job fair out there before? How many of you all just kind of walked around and they're like, okay, give me your resume, we'll follow up with you, boom, we'll help you out, we'll give you a call, here's our website, all that stuff. Well, our staff, they take it a step beyond that. Normally, we'll do a preparation period for those employers prior to the event, so we can help them avoid those obstacles. Help them be, hey, you're here to hire veterans. Don't just collect paper from them. Conversate. There may be an opportunity that, A, he may not be the best candidate on paper, but once you have that conversation, you're like, holy cow. Boom, where have you been for the past 6 months when this job's been out there? And we see a lot of that because our staff takes time to educate and advocate with those employers. So now, as we talked about, we have kind of two clear paths that we have our folks working in, those in the career advisory capacity and those working with the employers. How do we bring them together? So we got two sides of the employment field, the job seeker, the candidate, and the employer. One's getting them job ready, The other one's out there advocating for employment opportunities out there, which all have jobs attached to them. So what we do is we do what we call case conferencing. So as that career advisor is getting that veteran job ready, he's talking to that employer liaison saying, hey, I got Mike Jones over here, just graduated the VRE program. He's got his degree in accounting. He's looking for an opportunity. Hey, great. Guess what? I was just talking with Ed yesterday. They're going to have 7 different positions in their finance department coming over next week. Send me his resume. So now that employer liaison's already working with that relationship that he's got with that employer. Once again, he's making that employer's job easy. Hey, I got your candidate. No need to post that job. Take a look at him. Are you interested? Yeah, let's get you two talking then. So that's what our staff does. Not only do they have that candidate pool, they also got the opportunities, but now we're talking. And that's what we want to be able to do with you all at that institution of higher education well. You got those candidates. Tell them about us. We're here for every veteran. The more veterans we have, the easier it is for us to maintain those relationships out there in that employment community. So as we said, I'm going to try and step away from the screen. I don't think Amy's going to have a problem hearing me here. Let's talk about some different things that are out there. How many of you all are familiar with the VA Work Study program? How many of you all have a VA Work Study in your office out there? Great opportunity for those veterans. A, they're already in that education process. Boom. Now you're helping them to expand their skills. You're giving them another couple of talking points on their resume for qualifications. And I have seen, especially with us, we as the TBC, we have VA work studies. In our previous employment director, 2 people ago, guess where he started at? He started as a VA work study with us. And he moved his way all the way up to Director of Veterans Employment Services. There's value. There's value in you as that mentor, that opportunity to take a look at bringing those folks on. Help expand their resume beyond bachelor's degree in, master's degree in. Boom, now they got some points on there. And I know we've worked with Jerry on a few different things out there. We actually had one of his work studies organize an event for us out there. Boom, I'm in marketing. That would be a great thing to put on my resume as I'm pushing it out for full-time employment opportunities. So take a look at it if you don't have it already. We already talked a little bit about the VRE program with the counselor. Now, one of the things as well, each year, the state of Texas does a memorandum of understanding with DARS, Department of Assistive and Rehabilitative Services. Those veterans that may be in the VRE program or provided training or education under that chapter, they may be eligible for additional services through DARS. We all know the federal government doesn't pay for everything, right? But there still may be that need there. So if you got that disabled veteran in there that's already not working with DARS, it's advisable that they get out there and they can see what additional resources may be available for me in that. Just recently we worked with the Texas Workforce Commission and Commissioner Hughes out there in her group. How many of you all heard about the new initiative, We Hire Vets? Okay, so let me explain it to you real quick. We've been working on this for a good 12 months plus. We Hire Vets is an employer-focused program to help those employers market and make aware that they are a veteran-friendly organization. An employer can self-nominate. They send either myself and Bob Deere over the Texas Veterans Education Program a self-nomination form. One of the mandates is that their veteran workforce must be at least above 10%. So as they send that to us, we validate that they are registered with the state of Texas as an employer. We validate what their veteran percentage is, and then Commissioner Hughes will send them a sticker to hang on their organization doors, as well as a letter. So now, that is a visible sign for those job seekers. Holy cow. I'm walking in the door, I see we hire a vet. I'm a vet. Let me go back and change real quick. So once again, keep an eye out there, take a look at that. Now, one of the things that's going to happen on that as well is we continue to progress on it. The Texas Veterans Commission, along with the Texas Workforce Commission, we're going to be building a website that all this data for those organizations and employers that A, have that We Hire Vet sticker, B, have a veterans preference policy, or C, fall under the OFCCP regulations. So now, boom, that veteran can go, hey, I'm a veteran, I'm getting my degree, I'm moving on, I'm looking for where some career mobility opportunities are at, and you're sitting there across the floor, hey, have you looked at website X? There's a list of veteran preference and veteran-friendly employers out there. You might want to take a look at that in addition to what you've already got on workintexas.com, LinkedIn, and through our career website through the university. So those are probably going to be coming out here within the next 6 to 8 months, just depending on how much those IT guys get paid to do this. How many of you are familiar with OFCCP? The Office of Federal Contracts Compliance Program. We talked about it. There are certain mandates out there, and these OFCCP rules, those deal with those contractors that have federal contracts. They have a veteran hiring standard as well. So now if I'm a veteran and I'm out there and I'm looking, what are my opportunities? Where can I go to start taking a look at this? Because once again, it talks about that priority of service, that preference in the hiring process. So these are the opportunities out there that they're, and I love higher education, don't get me wrong, but there's not going to be a class on this at your university. So now, as they're coming in and they're sitting down with you, boom, now you know more than that professor that just gave them an A in physics. Because, boom, if you're a veteran, you know what OFCCP is. Let me tell you. Hey, have you checked out the We Hire Vets website? Boom, let me show you. So once again, we talk about us as our staff, our agency, and that passion and that veteran focus that we have. We need partners. We love holding hands. We love hugging babies. The more people we have, the better opportunity that we have. And I say we because we are a support establishment for that veteran.
My name is Anna Baker, and I'm the manager of the Women Veterans Program. Our mission is to ensure that women veterans have equitable access to benefits and services. And I want to demonstrate to you what that means. So I've asked my dear friend, Bill Dwiggins, to help me out. Can y'all hear me? I can talk loud. Not in front of the okay, so we have a need. We need to see over that 6-foot fence. You're going to help me. You're going to give each of us, he has that same need, 6-foot fence, a 5-inch platform. So Bill steps on that 5-inch platform. Bill, can you see over the fence?
Not yet.
You can't see? How tall are you?
6'2".
And you can't see over the 6-foot fence?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you're totally messing up my thing.
Yes, I can see far away.
Okay, all right. So the point is, okay, I guess I should have schooled him before we got up here. If I step on that 5-inch platform, I cannot see over the fence. You treated us equally. We each got a 5-inch platform, but my need has not been met. Thank you, Bill. Here's your microphone. So that's the point. The point is equitable access. And that is our goal, is to ensure that women veterans have equitable access to benefits and services. So how do we do that? We do that in various ways. We have events where we try to encourage women to meet with each other. We bring in subject matter experts. I work with all of the programs that have presented to you this morning to make sure that women veterans know about the benefits that they have in education, the benefits that they have with employment, the benefits that they have with our healthcare advocacy programs. So that's really the goal for our program. Now, I want to share a little story with you about awareness. So one of the challenges that we have as within the women's program is getting women to identify as veterans, for one thing, and the second thing is to get that information out there so that they will be aware of what their benefits are. So I got out of the military a long time ago, I won't tell you when, and when I got out there were no programs to educate you about your benefits. I get out of the service, I go about my business, I get my undergrad degree. I had already passed being able to use my GI Bill, but I was fortunate. I got mostly grants and scholarships, so I didn't have any issue getting my undergrad. In 2010, I decided I wanted to get my master's degree. So I worked for this company who gave me a little bit of money to help towards that. I was a year and a half through my master's degree, and I was having a conversation with one of my peers at work who had been in the Marines, and we were talking about children, and he was telling me he had 2 children who were going to UT. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how can you afford that? And he said, Hazelwood. And I'm like, what is that? So he proceeds to tell me about Hazelwood. I did not know about Hazelwood, and I was already enrolled and more than halfway through my MBA program at Baylor, Sick Bears. But they're a private school, so I couldn't have, I didn't know. Maybe if I'd have known, I'd have gone to Texas A&M or UT or some other program. I didn't know. So it's made me really passionate, and I tell that story because a lot of times, especially for women who are post-Vietnam, pre-9/11 veterans who served during peacetime, they do their time, they get out, they have their families, and they disconnect from the veteran community. And then they lose out on benefits. And it can be costly. I'm telling you, an MBA from Baylor is not cheap. So, again, I think there's a real need for all of us to help women veterans, get them to identify and make them aware that there's benefits out there for them, even if they don't qualify for VA health care benefits. There are other benefits that they will qualify for. So we talked about connecting women veterans to benefits and service, educating women veterans, identifying their needs. TBC did a study with Texas State University to identify the needs of women veterans. A lot of the primary needs are around employment, health care, and child care is a big one. And I mention child care because if you don't know, the largest age group of women veterans in Texas is between 32 and 45, I believe, 45, 44. These are women who have served in the military. They're right about that age. They may be having children and they're deciding to go back to school. So if you have women veterans in your schools who are stretching themselves thin, trying to get an education and raise children, do they have what they need to be able to be successful? Do they have childcare that's out there? One of the things that I've been doing is I've been reaching out to a lot of organizations, Easter Seals, the YWCA, the YMCA. They have child care programs, so I'm meeting with each of them to try to identify what options there are for women who are trying to get employed, go to school, and do those things they need to do to benefit their families and make their families stronger, and make sure that they've got the child care to do that. We talked about public awareness. Before you leave today, we had a little campaign, a public awareness campaign. We created a poster. We had women veterans who submitted their pictures. And we did that because we want people to realize that women veterans just look like every other woman out there, right? I mean, women veterans are less likely to wear a cap identifying them by their service, or t-shirts, or even tattoos. So we wanted people to see that a woman veteran just looks like every other woman veteran. Please take a poster with you when you leave, and put that up in your where the student centers or wherever women will see them, so that if they do choose to identify, they know who to call to get benefits and services. We also recognize and honor women veterans. We've had the opportunity in the past to recognize something like 22 World War II women veterans, Vietnam women veterans. We even had, it was so amazing, we had a woman veteran who was a Coast Guard veteran. She was 92 maybe. Still walked on her own. She came to an event. She brought her uniform. A Coast Guard woman veteran. First of all, a Coast Guard, that's the smaller of the services, but a Coast Guard woman veteran, that's pretty rare. So she was amazing. She still does square dancing to stay fit. She brought her uniform. It was about that big, ladies. You know, it was crazy. So we want to recognize and honor them for their service. And we do that at the various events that we have. We do a lot of research, and we make that research available on our Women Veterans Professional Network. So we try to find information that's relative to women veterans, whether it's professional development, healthcare, changes in VA programs that serve women veterans, all of those things we post on our Women Veterans Professional Network. There are flyers out front. Take as many as you'd like. We want as many women veterans to join our network as we can get. And then there's a new bill that was passed, Senate Bill 805, in this last session, that's going to increase our reporting requirements. How many women veterans are we servicing? Does anybody know how many women veterans there are in the state of Texas? Thank you, Mr. Palladino. Yeah, so Texas has the largest population of women veterans in the country. More women veterans in Texas. We have the second largest population overall, but with women veterans, we're first. So it's our responsibility to capture that information. How many women veterans in Texas? How many women veterans are getting services and benefits? Second, recommending policy. So we have these groups, and we get to these work groups, and we get together and we talk about, and not just for women, but we do it for education, employment, housing, and we talk about needs, and then we try to come up with recommendations that we can pass on to the legislature to pass bills that will help veterans and their families. We're also developing some language that's going to go on state applications. So any veteran who applies for any kind of assistance through Health and Human Services or what have you, there will be an option there for them to identify as a veteran. There will be a way for them to reach out to the Texas Veterans Commission so that we can make sure that we take care of their needs. And then they have made it official, Women Veterans Day. The first official Women Veterans Day will be June the 12th of 2018. So we're just starting to have conversations about what that event is going to look like, but we definitely want all of our women veterans throughout the state to plan and think about events and things that they can do in their communities to recognize women veterans. Nope. There we go. How to get a hold of us. info@tvctexas.gov. You can contact me directly. I've left my business card out in the front. And I've already talked to you a little bit about the Women Veterans Professional Network. Some of the ways that I think that we can work together, we can partner together, is to create more awareness about gender-specific issues. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but we often get asked, why do we need a Women Veterans Program? Well, there are issues that are primarily on the healthcare side that are specific to women veterans, and I'll give you a very relevant example that actually ties back to my demonstration earlier. We had a woman veteran contact us maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and she'd had an injury to her foot, and she went to the VA hospital, one of the largest VA hospitals. I'm not going to call them out here because we do appreciate the partnership that we have with them. So she goes to the hospital to get care, and she needs a boot, and they don't have a boot. They don't have any women's boots. And this is one of the largest VA facilities in Texas that has the highest population of women veterans in the country, and they did not have a boot for her. So what we do when we have these situations come across to us is we reach out to our internal programs, if we have one, and we do, the Healthcare Advocacy Program. So we reached out to Jose and his team, and we said, we need you to help us advocate for this woman veteran at the VA because they don't have what she needs. And so these are the kind of things that we can bring to your school or wherever, any kind of event that you have, and we can talk about these things and we can educate everyone on them. And we talked about education, about benefits and services, recognizing and honor women veterans, and gather needs assessments. So if this is something that you'd be interested in doing, if you're interested in having some kind of event for women in your community or at your school, we're more than happy to help you figure out what that looks like so that we can address the needs with women. And then just support us, continue to promote Women Veterans event in your community. So I know that, I can't remember who earlier, Julie talked about the Veteran Service Organizations, the DAV, the VFW, and the American Legion. A lot of them, a lot more women are in those programs now. The challenge is getting the younger women there. And I think this kind of goes back to child care and making it more accessible and easy for them to participate. So keep promoting those types of events, and then promoting women veterans campaigns. Again, grab a poster and put that up in your school, in your student center, and let's bring some awareness to women veterans. Other partnerships, we talked about the VA, the County Veteran Service Officers. I want to talk about the last two, Dress for Success and Boots to Heels. So I've been a volunteer for Dress for Success for several years now, and they have a very good program. They have a deep program. So it's not just about providing professional attire to women who are seeking employment, but what they also do is they have a professional program for women. So once they've helped that woman get a job, they do mock interviews, they help with resumes, they do a lot of those things, and then once the woman gets a job, they actually have a professional network that they can join there. Now here's the deal with Dress for Success. Most of these facilities require the woman to be referred. So a lot of the referrals come from churches, Goodwill, Salvation Army. The benefit to a woman veteran is she does not have to be referred by another agency. She can self-refer. So if you know women veterans, the women that are getting ready to graduate and go, starting that job search process, if they need an interview suit, they give you a free suit, they give you shoes, they give you a handbag, they do makeup, and they will help make sure that that woman is interview ready. And they get to self-refer, so they don't have to be referred by another agency. I'm not sure how many Dress for Success facilities there are in Texas. I know there's one in Houston. They work very closely with Catholic Charities and several other organizations there. They have a very good veterans program. Boots to Heels is actually a program up in Dallas. The lady who runs the Boots to Heels program is a veteran. They go through a couple of days, I believe, of actual training. So they talk about all those same things, those skills that women need to get hired, building a resume, mock interviews, and then once they actually go through the class, then they get suited. So they actually have to go through training first. But these are two excellent programs for women veterans who are seeking employment, the ladies that are getting ready to graduate with their degrees and looking for that next professional opportunity. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm Charlie Cato. I'm the director of the Fund for Veterans Assistance. Rand was so thoughtful when he invited me to participate in this symposium, and he first laid out the schedule, and I told him, what did you do? What did I ever do to you? Because he gives me the first one right after lunch. Okay, we're talking students here. We're talking the schools. Who ever wanted to go to class right after lunch? Just doesn't happen. That was bad enough. Then he lays out the menu at the next meeting, and it's turkey. Worse than that, he steals my joke right before the lunch happens. So, thanks, Rand. I appreciate that. So, anyway, the Fund for Veterans Assistance. Just about everybody who's come up here from TVC has said we're a little bit different, and we're a little bit different. Our portion of TVC doesn't necessarily deal directly with veterans. We're targeted more towards the organization, thus Rand's comment about Student Veterans Association organizations. What we actually do is we administer the program that provides grants to nonprofits and units of local government that are actually the people that provide services to the veteran population. Our grants are very specific in that they're reimbursement grants, so it's not we give you all the money and you just spend it. There is some admin that goes with it, but the organizations operate with their funds and then ask us for reimbursements for what they've spent on serving the veterans. We have 5 different grant programs, and what we tried to do is group different services together within those grant programs so that it made a little bit of sense and we could have the rules that rotated around them. General assistance would be what you would think of as kind of the catch-all. There's a lot of different service categories within that, a lot of different things that you can do. Financial assistance is probably our biggest when it comes to need and grants that we get applications for. And financial assistance runs the gamut in among itself. It can be rental assistance, it can be utilities assistance, just you name it, whatever it is, it's emergency financial assistance kind of stuff. Our Housing for Texas Heroes grants, the name is kind of indicative. That is, deals with either homelessness support or homelessness prevention, and then home modification. So what's the difference between support and prevention for homelessness? Homelessness support would be things that you would think of like shelters. Salvation Army runs a shelter, or programs that try to get veterans off of the street, rapid rehousing. Homelessness prevention is kind of the long-term look at if you have a veteran who maybe is in their family who's in a precarious situation, we try to prevent them from actually losing their home. If they're behind, 6 months behind on their mortgage or their rent, or they've gotten an eviction notice. So that's kind of the difference. You want to prevent them from being homeless, and if they are homeless, you support to try to get them back in. Most of those also include some type of a case management, because you just can't, put them in a shelter and leave them there. You want to figure out, most veterans that do that, the homelessness prevention thing, require documentation. They don't have a driver's license. They probably don't even have a DD-214. They don't have a job. They most likely need, some type of either medical care or dental assistance or something. So there's a lot that goes into that piece of it. The home modification portion really has two different targets for services. One of them is the wounded warrior population. They have a house, they're now wounded warriors, something they need, either wheelchair ramps, handicapped adaptations or something like that. And we have organizations that do that we fund. We also have the opposite end of the spectrum from the younger wounded warriors are the older veterans that we'd like to have them be able to age in place. And if you will, some veterans live in some houses, the older, and they may now be handicapped or disabled on their own and need those modifications. Also, there's a large population out there like that they haven't been able to maintain their house as they get older. So those can fund a new roof, new insulation, new windows, and the same thing, adaptations for handicapped stuff. So it's the intent is to try to make it so that they can actually comfortably and safely age in place. Our Veterans Mental Health Grant is a fairly new grant program. It's only a couple years old, and we've divided it out into clinical services, peer support service, or peer delivered services, and then non-clinical. Clinical is pretty easy. If it's a licensed counselor or something, that's what we would consider a clinical. For peer delivered services, I don't think you all know what peer delivered services are, and our Veterans Mental Health folks will give you that brief afterwards. And then the non-clinical support is kind of a lump to catch everything else. Think about equine therapy, music therapy, or acupuncture. We've got a couple organizations that do things like that. The Veterans Treatment Court, who knows what specialty courts are? Anybody ever heard of the specialty courts? Great, that's good. There's a lot of folks that don't, but that's a grant that really is only applicable to local governments, because the counties are the ones that put the specialty court together. But I put it on here so you all are aware of it. If you see anybody that's involved, if they identify, we fund specialty courts, and we fund, just depends on what the application asks for. Really and truly, the money is flexible. We've funded court coordinators, we funded bailiffs, we fund some of their drug monitoring equipment, anything that they need to try to help that veteran be successful in their court program. And then the last one is a federal grant that we're a pass-through through the highly rural transportation. The federal definition of highly rural is 7 people per square mile. So you've learned something today, right? 7 people per square mile, that's highly rural. And we actually fund vans and operating costs so that those highly rural counties can get veterans to their VA appointments and back, and works out pretty good. So, catch up on my sheet. We always have to have the requisite wiring diagram, so you know what we look like. We're small. There's not very many of us. That's all I want you to take away from this. We're all here in Austin, and we cover the entire state. Speaking of the entire state, you've seen lots of maps here, and all the colors are different. We have our own set of regions, and this map is important to us because we have priorities set by our commissioners to make sure that we have grants geographically distributed across the state, and they also want to make sure that the grants have a diversity of services within each region. So you wouldn't want to do 20 housing grants in North Texas, but then somebody is applying to do financial assistance. None of those grants get up there. So that's why it's important to look at the regions. And ours are a little bit different from everybody else, but it seems these work out quite well when it comes to dividing. The population, it's not related to population of veterans. We've found that's a little bit difficult to do when you try to figure out whose population numbers you're going to use, but this has worked for us. Now, what everybody really wants to know is, how do I get my hands on the money? This is where I'm supposed to cue Pink Floyd's Money, the thing. I will admit we are a state agency, and it is somewhat of a daunting process to apply for a grant. Our website is a wealth of knowledge, and if you go to the TVC website, you will see the Fund for Veterans Assistance across the top there, and there's a page, and I've got the address on there if you print the slides out, / apply for a grant. There are links there for each of those grant programs, and inside the links to those grant programs are all the documents that you need to fill out for us, and the list of things that you would have to turn in with a grant application. So the request for applications is kind of the rule. It's the rules of everything. It tells you what we're asking for, why we're asking for it. There's a little bit of history in there about how the legislature set us up and all that. Very important. There's a lot of legalese in there too. The commission priorities are part of that request for applications. The application is separate from that because it's a Word document that we want you to fill in, and it asks questions about, what is your project, who, when, why of who are you going to serve, when are you going to serve them, how are they going to get the services you're going to provide. So we're going to a lot of details on what your project or what it is you're asking for the grant. Then we're going to ask you for a little bit of background on how did you identify this was a need. What need are you answering? How did you identify that that is the need? And then we'll ask you to get into some details about who are you going to serve. For the most part, our grants don't have a lot of restrictions on who you can serve. Got to be veterans, veterans' families, dependents, and surviving spouses. But then you can either set restrictions or not set restrictions. We have some grants that only want to serve post 9/11 veterans. We have some grantees that will serve anybody. We have some grantees that will only serve honorably discharged veterans. We don't restrict that. We don't define it. We do catch a little grief every now and then because we have some grantees that will serve all veterans no matter what the character of discharge is. And you can see if you look at the services, I'll give you for instance, Salvation Army. Somebody shows up at their door, says, I'm a veteran and I need services. They're not going to turn them away. They're probably not going to have a DD-214 that you can determine their character of discharge, and they'll serve them. And then once they serve them, they count them, and we can then reimburse them for the costs of whatever the services are that they give. Once all those documents are there, I would encourage you, the ones that are up there right now are last year's documents. You can pull them down and look at them. This year's documents will be available on August 21st. They're not a whole lot different from last year, so you can get a head start and take a look at what's there. Download the materials, read through them, see what's there, and see where your project might actually fit into getting some money. Finally, the next step is to make sure that you turn everything in by the time it's due, and make sure that your application is complete. These are competitive. The grants that just ended this year, we had $17.5 million worth of grants. The grants that just started the 1st of July was, that was $17.5 million. The year before that, it was $21 million. Next year, the ones we're putting the applications out for that start next summer, we've got $26 million of funding to provide. So the more money does not mean that the grant process is easier. It's actually gotten more and more competitive the more we grow. So here's a little look at some more important dates for our cycle that's coming up. This is what's important as you go through. Like I said, August 21st is when this year's applications will be available. The applications will be due to TVC either October 26th, which is general assistance, and then the other grant programs, they'll be due on November 2nd. The way our process works is the staff goes through them, makes sure they're eligible, does all the stuff that we do with them, and by the end of the holidays, we pass all of our applications to an advisory committee. And the advisory committee actually works for the commission. The advisory committee looks at them. There's an opportunity for anybody who is applying that is eligible and wants to come speak to the advisory committee at the end of January. They can do that here in Austin. And then in March, the advisory committee gets together and puts together a recommendation. That recommendation is presented to the commission in May, and then the commissioners are actually the ones that make the decision. The project's funding starts in July, so you can kind of see we're working way out. We just started the new ones last month, and it goes for 12 months, ends the end of June, and then there's final reporting. I tell my staff, the folks that work with me, we are the guardians of the process. We're the ones that we put the applications out, we take the applications in, we make sure everything's filed, we do the reimbursement payments, we do all that kind of good stuff, but we're the guardians of the process. This grant program belongs to the commissioners, and the commissioners are the ones that make the final decision when it comes to grants. So, with that arduous process that we know is not thing for the heart, can I get help with this? You certainly can, and we'd love to help. We do have a few rules that we have to comply with, and that August 21 date comes back up again. Before August 21, call us, email us, walk into the office, come ask questions. We're happy to work with you. We can't always tell you that it's a good project, it's a bad project. We can probably give you some hints on what we've seen, but again, we don't make the decisions for the grants. After August 21st, because of the rules of making this a fair competition, it's kind of like a sealed bid type deal. All questions have to be emailed to us so that we can answer them in a public forum so nobody gets an unfair advantage to an answer. So it's a little bit more cumbersome after August, why am I stuck on October? After August 21st. There is an opportunity during that application window from August through October, November. We will hold some live webinars, and we do answer questions live on those webinars for everybody to see, and then we post them. If you miss a webinar, then we post them on our website too, so you can see what questions were asked, what information was provided in the webinars. I've got our contact information here, and amazingly enough, you're going to see it an awful lot on a lot of the slides that are coming up. But you can't expect a fundraiser with a microphone not to put a pitch in. A lot of folks always ask, well, where does this money come from? We don't get money from general revenue. In other words, this is not money that is allocated from the legislature. This money comes from donations. The largest of our money comes from a scratch-off ticket that benefits veterans from the Texas Lottery. So what you see up there for pictures-wise, the double match, that's our current lottery scratch-off ticket. You can kind of see at the bottom in red, it says supporting Texas veterans. If you see a scratch-off ticket that says that, usually there's one or two. They're $2 scratch-off tickets, and 48 cents of that $2 comes directly into the Fund for Veterans Assistance. So that is by far our largest fundraising arm. I threw the Veterans Cash ticket up there. That's last year's ticket. We put one out that looks like that with stars and red, white, and blue, usually around Veterans Day, so you can see that. We also get donations through check boxes on a lot of the state applications. So when you renew your driver's license, or when you renew your license plates, you ever seen that little check box that says, do you want to support Texas veterans? That's us. That money, they gather it all up and they send it right back over to us, and it goes right into the Fund for Veterans Assistance. So I would encourage you next time when you're renewing, round it off to the next whole dollar. I don't care if it's 25 cents. I don't care if it's 50 cents. Just round it to the next whole dollar and send it to us. Trust me, it adds up. That would be great. And you're supporting organizations that actually support the veteran community. Not this last legislature, but the legislature before, they actually added that checkbox to handgun licenses, and they added the checkbox to hunting fishing licenses. So hunting fishing season's coming up. You got the opportunity that you now know where that money goes. And that money goes right into the fund. They don't scrape anything off of it. It comes right to us, and then we grant it out. There's also a website. If you want to donate directly to us, you can go there and do that. So, that's the quick and dirty on the Fund for Veterans Assistance.
Well, I'll go here first. This says a team of highly trained Texas Veterans Commission staff strategically positioned across the state to act as a liaison for Texas in addressing and solving issues with the VA, healthcare related. What does that mean? Basically, this means we have about 75 years worth of knowledge working for us across the state. And my program, the Texas Veterans Commission Healthcare Advocacy Program, we are the ones that are the middleman between veterans, their family, and the VA. We are basically going to help you access these services. 75 years of experience means we have guys stationed throughout the state that have either worked for the VA, with the VA, and they know what they're doing. Trust me, I've got a guy out there. Anybody know what a nuke is? Anybody heard the word nuke it? So he is a nuke, and he knows everything, and he runs circles around people with paperwork and the jargon, but he'll get the job done for you. He will definitely get the job done for you. So I want you to remember that. Why do we have this program? Does anybody know why we even have this advocacy program when the VA has its own advocates? Anybody hear about the backlog and the problems and the manpower? I've got the big head nodding up there. That's more candy for you. So the VA, as you know, is overwhelmed. They're undermanned, and they don't have enough manpower. They have all this paperwork. Every time they seem to turn around and use a database, something goes wrong, and they have to work, go back around. We actually are in the VA facilities, working in the VA with these VA representatives as your POC. So when you come in to see us, we're the state advocate. We're not federal, we're not local, we're the state advocate. So whenever you reach out to one of our guys, you're not just calling them and then hoping that they get something done. They can actually stand up and walk outside the door into any of the offices or go over to whichever program they need to, and they can ask them the questions, or they can sometimes hand the paperwork directly to the people. And I think that would be useful instead of having to just try to get on the phone. A lot of times you call up your advocates, they're busy, they don't get back to you. We have advocates that you may call up and they may be busy, and they will get back to you. So please make sure that you remember state advocate within the VA facilities. We're not just in some office down the street. We're pretty much everywhere. I'm slow. This isn't working. There we go. Hey, the services we provide. Yeah, I mean, when you say healthcare services, isn't that like a whole bunch of information? You're like, do you know how much that covers? Now, this is what our advocates do. It was kind of hard to narrow it down, but after we took a while and we put it all together, these are the services we do. Access to doctor's appointments. Let's say, what's your name over here? Guy in the middle? What's your name? Do I have a John? No. What is it, Mike? Bobby, I can see that. Okay. And I like the Martine, okay? But let's say, you're going to like that I picked on him though. Bobby, let's say he wanted his colonoscopy appointment. Right? And he's like, I have called 100 times to get this colonoscopy appointment. And every time I turn around, I don't think that they understand, but I keep getting a gynecology appointment. I don't need a gynecology appointment. I need the colonoscopy. You will remember this. In the future, you'll remember this program just because of that. If you are having problems accessing your appointments, and not just I called, they didn't answer, blah, blah, blah. We're talking you're really having some issues with your appointments. That is what they're here to do for you. They will get you an appointment because they're in the VA facilities. They can just go out down the hall and they can talk to them and go, hey, is there a possibility that I can help Bobby and Martine get their colonoscopy? Pharmacy, medications, and assistant. Oh, we're going to go with the girl. What? What's your name? Allie. Thank God. Okay. So let's say Allie is calling up the pharmacy and she's like, I'm having a real big problem getting any of my medications. Or they keep sending me something different. I keep ordering Midol and they keep giving me Viagra. Totally not going to help you out, is it? Okay? Big difference. There are other, wait, I remember censored and professional. Yes, I will stay in that. You almost got me in trouble. So let's say you're having a problem with that. You can't get your pharmacy. You can't get any of your prescriptions. We help you with that. Obtaining outside referrals for health care. We're not just talking about getting services outside because you don't like the doctor or something like that. But you guys all got that choice program. You got a choice program card, which, by the way, you don't have to have the card to have the choice program. You just have to know the word choice program. Let's say that you're like, I need an outside referral for something. And it's going to be an appointment in 45 days. It's supposed to be within 30 days, you know, and I'm supposed to get an appointment. But you can't get it. And there's like, sorry, 60 days, 90 days, maybe next year we'll get you an appointment. That's what our guys stand in and do. Healthcare testing and special appointments. If you have any type of specific issue that you're having problems with, and you can't either, they're not understanding what you're saying, or they don't have enough time, or it's just not working out for you, if you call us, our guys can help you get that specialty testing. VA healthcare related billing. Oh my God. How many people here have got a bill after you thought you were being seen for choice program, and all of a sudden this huge bill showed up? Has anybody besides me had that happen? Okay, thank you. If you're not really careful, you can end up with those bills. So if you are having any healthcare related billing problems, call up our guys. They will help figure that out so that you're not just paying out of pocket because you're tired of answering the question. And you're running away because, you know, you've tried 50 times to resolve it, but it hasn't worked out, so you're fine. Here, just take the $25 and leave me alone. Okay, we can help you with that. Fee basis referrals. Now this is a little bit different. This is when, let's say you have something special that you need to be done, but they don't do it within that area, and you kind of need those services. Our guys can help you if you're having a problem getting this. Does that make sense? I cut this down. Obviously, there's like 500,000 things that could go into these bullets that fall under healthcare services. But does this make sense for you? Yes. Okay, great. I'm waking you up. This guy over here looks like he's going to sleep. So. But everybody's like, who's going to go sleep? Now you look like you're going to sleep. I just want you to rest, so that's what you're doing now. You're ready too. Okay. You guys are awesome. We have the workers back here, so I think we need this or something like that. There's more in the bag. Don't worry. Okay, where are we located? You notice this map up here, and I told you we have these advocates. And you're going, oh my God. They have 11, so we have 11 different areas. We're going to go to 12. Amarillo will be the next place we open. But if you look up here and you check out this map, this is everywhere we cover, and you have an advocate in every single one of them. Now, I know you're hearing you have an advocate. We have 11 advocates. These 11 advocates pulled out 10,000 cases from September 2015 to last week. And they don't even document half of their stuff because they're too busy helping veterans. They're not worried about their paperwork. So when you look at this, if you can't reach your advocate, you can reach out to someone else's advocate. And if you notice, right here, those are the phone numbers. I'm going to bring this up at the end. And it's also available outside at our table. This number down here, if you remember anything, this 1-800-252-VETS, this is going to be the most important number because any of the TBC programs you can't reach out and find, they're going to be available at this number. All of our advocates are up here, and here's their phone numbers. If you want to take a screenshot, use your phone. I know that's what we do in the colleges. But I want to make sure that you have those. I'm going to pull this up at the end, so don't worry about it. It's not gone for good. Partnerships. Okay. We work with, and I know you have your VA counterparts and they're out there and they're helping you too, but we work with state, local, and federal programs across the entire state. Now, if you have something that falls outside of healthcare related, we will find you, and remember this, we will find you whatever program you need. Just because we fall in the healthcare advocacy program doesn't mean we're going to go, I'm sorry, that's not healthcare related, you need to walk away. Okay? You're like, I have an employment issue, I have a whatever issue, whatever the issue is. Call our guys and they know someone in the local area, they're going to find them for you if they don't know who they are. Okay, so make sure you don't just walk away. Call them and say, hey, I know this may not fall in the healthcare, but I'm having an issue with my house. I'm having an issue making payments. I'm having an issue getting food. I'm having an issue that involves women veterans program. I'm having an issue that involves education. I'm having an issue, whatever it is. Go ahead and call our guys. They're going to get on the phone with this person and make sure you've got the right person. And if it doesn't work and you say, hey, I don't know who that was, they were trying to sell me stuff, you should never be paying for services, people. You have free services. Anyone charging a veteran, that's a bad organization. Okay? You should never be paying for services. Motivated. Why do we do what we do? I put this slide up here because I wanted you to know the reason that our guys do this is because they're all veterans. And what did you used to do in the military? You took care of your own. Didn't you take care of your own? Did you just leave someone and go, you're on your own? Sorry. You took care of your own, and you're our own. And every single one of these people, their heart's in it. They're not just doing it because that paycheck's there. Trust me, it's state pay. It ain't much. I'm not saying I'm not getting paid. I'm just saying. Okay, so state pay isn't something you're like, woo! Okay? They're doing it because that's where their heart is. And a lot of these guys, we can't even make them stop. We have to send one of our guys home. He's sitting there and he's talking to veterans, and the VA is closing down. Okay, so that's why they do it. You're not alone. Every issue you think is just to you, you're the only one that has that problem. I guarantee you there are a few thousand other vets that have the same problem. But if you don't make the phone call and you don't ask because you feel dumb, you need to remember, we're all vets. We're all lost together, and we're going to take care of you. Do you understand that? That's helping vets. That's what the program's about. If you have a problem and someone's not helping you, well then guess what? That's not really a veteran to me if they've quit or they've gotten sour because their job is complicated. That's not what these people do. Their heart's in it. They're going to reach out and they're going to help you. Teamwork. Results. Like I told you before, we started off with 1.5 person. I don't know how you get a half a person. I don't know, but that's what the deputy director told me. Sherry, I need you to go out with this new program. You have no marketing funds. You have no money. And you have 1.5 people. And we're going to call it a program. How do you call a program 1.5 people? How do I put that out there? These 1.5 people turned into 2 people, turned into 4 people. And how do you think we've become so successful? We have 11 people. Okay, you I'm coming after. It's word of mouth, right? If this vet gets good services, what does he do? He goes, dude, you got to go see this guy over here. I had a problem. I've made 100 different phone calls. Nobody could help me. Nobody. 2 weeks later, the problem's solved. He calls me and tells me he's got the issue taken care of. That's how we grow. Is success. Word of mouth. Definitely not by funding. I put this up here for you. This is the website. Here again is that 1-800-252-VETS. Now this is going to be, you know how those call centers are, right? When you call them up and you're like, oh dear God, I'm getting passed around. That's why I suggest you call our people directly. But if you call them on the call center and they answer, make sure you say, I'm looking for Jose Silva. No, I am looking for the healthcare advocacy program. Or I'm looking for help with whatever the subject is at the Texas Veterans Commission. And then they will get you in direct contact. Or you can just go on our website, since most of you know how to use a computer.
So my name is Michael Haas, and I'm going to talk about the Veteran Entrepreneur Program. Before we get started, I just want to say a couple things. Number one, welcome to Austin, for those of you who are here from out of town. Molds are off the charts today, so my voice is a little scratchy, so I'm going to use the microphone. And I also, Sherry told a good story about Jose looking for somebody that was very dynamic and engaging. I as well talked to my boss, Robin, and she said, hey, you've been messing up lately, so we're going to send you to go do this. So do your best. No, I'm just kidding. I just got the evil eye. All right. You'll get to meet her here in a few minutes, and you can pull her aside if you need to and tell her all about me. But anyway, so I'm going to jump right in. We're going to try to get through this fairly quickly. So the Veteran Entrepreneur Program. So I do have a quiz for everyone. Not really a quiz, but I'd like to get some feedback. So what does everybody think the purpose of the Veteran Entrepreneur Program is? Right? Business? Help veterans start businesses? That's all pretty good. I think that about sums it up. So the official answer is it's to foster and promote veteran entrepreneurship throughout the state of Texas. So that's what we do. Now, your next question is probably how do we do that? So first thing I'd like to do is introduce the team. We are the smallest program at TVC, but I think have one of the largest impacts, if I may say so myself. So my name's Michael Haas. I'm one of the business consultants. There are 4 of us here. I have the Central and West Texas regions. I am, as you know, a Marine vet. No, I'm just kidding. An Air Force veteran. And I spent 9 years in the Air Force. I got out and entered the civilian world, and I ran operations, customer service for about 7 different companies over the course of my career. And throughout that time, I decided to start a business. That one business that I started ended up being 5 different businesses, 2 of which I've sold, and 3 of which are still ongoing. So I'm very proud of that. And after I did that, I said, maybe I ought to learn something about what I'm doing. So I did go back to school, get my MBA. And after a few years of consulting, decided to join the Texas Veterans Commission, the Veteran Entrepreneur Program, specifically to, use the education and experience to help other veterans do the same thing. Because I certainly, as Sherry had mentioned and others, was completely unaware of all of the services that Texas offers their veterans. And so once I found out about the VEP, the Veteran Entrepreneur Program at TVC, I was all about it. So I've been here about 1.5 years and enjoy every minute of it. One of our other consultants, Greg Shigemasa, back here. Greg, you want to shout out, tell us a little bit about yourself?
Air Force Army vet, consulting for about 17 years at the DOD, NASA, FBI, CIA, small medium-sized businesses, and professor at the university for about 12 years now with the MBA program. Had some successful businesses, had some awesome failures along with them. Actually good. They're the best ones. They're riding high, and they just go boom. It's all good. But you just keep going. I'm a better entrepreneur than I am a business owner. I know that.
Thanks, Greg. A couple good points. I think we tend to learn more about from our failures than we do from our successes sometimes. And also an entrepreneur is not necessarily a business owner. There's definitely a distinction. Our next consultant, Christina Mortel.
Hi everybody, I'm Christina Mortel. I'm an Army vet. I was in the Army for 8 years. I also had my own business for 9 years. Also, our co-vet business. I also have worked in corporate America for almost 14 years. So I love doing a consultative practice, and I think that based on my background, I can really help veterans, student veterans, more runway you have, the better off. So I hope that you'll be able to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. And next is Robin Provost. She's our program manager and a consultant as well. Robin?
Hi everyone. Is anyone here from the Houston area all the way up to East Texas? If you are, I'm your point of contact. I've been with Mrs. Veterans Commission since 2015. Prior to that, I had been with the Veterans Education and the services that they have to offer. So you guys are in a great, are in a good space right now if you're connecting with all of the services. I've had several businesses that have launched and, like Greg said, I've shared some experience, have gone up and had people. Learned so much from those experiences. Learned so much from the point that I decided, well, you know what, maybe I don't know this as well as I think I know, so I went back to school and got my MBA. Food trucks, restaurants is my passion. I love to eat. I love the business side of it as well. So if you have any entrepreneurs in the food business, I have some experience in that. My recent endeavor is data analytics, so that's my project baby, and what I'm hoping to do with that is I'm hoping to teach veteran entrepreneurs to show veteran entrepreneurs how to set up their analytics for their business, what types of information do they need to gather to study the trends of the market or the confidence of their business. So I'm happy that you're here. I look forward to connecting with you.
Thanks, Robin. So now that you've met the team, this is the regions that we cover. I'm going to use this cool pointer. So Robin has these counties, Christina here, this is my area, and this is Greg's area. So I think everybody has these slides. So, and this is not a geography test by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly you could pick out your county, where your organization, where your institution is located. And feel free to reach out to us. I'll have contact information later in the presentation. So now that you know that we foster and promote entrepreneurship in the state of Texas, how do we do it? Besides regionalized service, okay? So really we have three things that we do. One is one-on-one business coaching. So we actually work with veterans directly who have business ideas and want to launch a business, or veterans who are in business and want to pivot or grow their business entity. We do business education and skills training, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but we're developing a resource library where kind of a one-stop shop. So we want to definitely look for links and things of that sort, or white papers, documents, anything that people produce that's relevant to business entrepreneurship and veterans in the state of Texas. And we conduct a lot of veteran outreach activities, and I'll touch on that in a minute. This is where you guys can help us out. So I'll start with talking about a little bit about our one-on-one business coaching. So we do a number of things. As I mentioned, we work with veterans to really vet out business ideas. I could tell you a lot of stories about veterans, their ideas on businesses, and how many times we sit down and look at financials and help them realize that, knitting sweaters for cats and selling them on eBay and making $500,000 a year may not be a bad thing if that's your passion, but you're not going to make $500,000 if you knit one sweater a day and you sell them for 40 bucks. So, helping veterans understand that is certainly something that we do. And then if they realize that their idea makes sense, certainly we help them develop their business plan. Most veterans, I think the number one request that we get is money. I need money to get my business started or get my business going. So we help them develop business plans so that they can acquire capital. One of the other things we work on is corporate structure. Am I going to be a sole proprietor, LLC, S Corp, C Corp, nonprofit, so on and so forth. So we can help veterans figure that out. And government contracting, I'm a 100% disabled vet, and I want to be a government contractor and do all the painting for all of this, state agencies in the state of Texas. And oh my God, how do I go about, navigating that world? So we can certainly help with that as well. Some of the other things, you know, along the lines of the business plan development, we also work on sales, marketing, operations planning. You know, once you get the business launched, how are you going to sell it? How are you going to market it? Copyright and patent assistance. I'll tell you a story. I met with a group of veterans last week who had this cool little black box. They wouldn't exactly tell me what it was all about because I didn't sign the non-disclosure. But anyways, helping them figure out how to get through the patent office or get their information copyrighted. We can help with that. We do have a lot of veterans who are interested in franchises. It just seems like a natural transition. You know, you spend so many years in the military, everything is documented, everything is regulated, everything is very structured. You have manuals and technical orders for everything you do. It seems like a natural transition for people who want to do a franchise because franchisors will basically lay it out. If you do this, this will be the result. So that seems to appeal to a lot of veterans. So we help connect them with the resources that can help them understand what they might be good at and what they can afford to do in terms of franchising. Mergers and acquisitions. It's always fun when when we get the opportunity to work in that realm. Just leave it at that. And local resource connections. So we, again, are trying to develop a lot of connections with local resources now in our specific geographic regions. And so we help veterans. A lot of veterans prefer to sit down and have a face-to-face conversation with somebody. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but it is what it is. We're all located in Austin, and we can't get out to the state every day of every week. So we try to use those local resources whenever available and connect them with the veterans. And currently, just to give you an idea on our activity volume, we're tracking to do about 7,000 different activities with veterans for this fiscal year, which keeps the four of us busy. The Business Education and Skills Resource Library. I want to talk a little bit about the genesis and evolution. Now, we actually had been doing what we called our Entrepreneur Academy in the early days. It was a very structured curriculum, 4 days, actually 4 Saturdays over a 5-month period of actual classroom training where we would get up and actually do the instruction. We augmented that with 5, 6, 7 webinars that we would produce during those periods of time to kind of keep people connected. What we found, obviously it's very localized. We could do it in Houston. We could do it in San Antonio. We could do it in Arlington, but we were very limited in terms of scope and access to the veterans across the state. So also we had, because of the duration, we seem to have a fairly high attrition rate on that. So, we'd start a class of 20 and graduate 10, and it just seemed to not be a really wise investment in resources. So we looked at a better way of doing education and training. So we started to work on a self-paced online training program, basically take that curriculum, break it down into bite-sized chunks, and develop that to deliver online on a self-paced program. And then we came to the realization that we just don't have the time to develop all that curriculum and make that happen. So unfortunately, that didn't happen. But what we did do is kind of evolve that into what our final iteration, which is the library resource, the reference library that we're talking about earlier. And again, that's going to be hopefully it will continue to grow and evolve, but that will be the one-stop shop for all things business, veteran business related in Texas. Or as I like to say, a repository for business information for veterans. And the third thing we do, a lot of veteran outreach activities. Again, this is where we like to rely for some help and guidance from you guys. You're connected in local communities. We appreciate you helping us get connected with some of those resources in your areas. We had been doing large-scale seminars in some of the bigger cities, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston again, where it was typically 7 or 8 hours on a Saturday. We'd have people come in, we'd provide lunch. It was a large format, large structure, 150 to 250 people, and we just cycle through speakers talking about specific topics every 45 minutes or an hour. That was great. I mean, we got good exposure. A lot of people got a lot of good information, but as you can imagine, in that particular format, it doesn't work really well if you're sitting there listening to somebody talk about franchising for an hour when that's not what you're there to learn about. So what we decided to do is really change the format into abbreviated presentations with a multiple breakout format. In fact, we just, this weekend, finished the one in Houston. Christina actually did that one. A tremendous job. We had 11 different breakout sessions. The information was all topic specific. And the cool thing, we were able to kind of look at the curriculum or the information based on geographic regions. Christina mentioned, you know, the agribusiness, USDA, we did down in Rio Grande Valley a couple months ago. So, you know, Houston, we kind of focused on government contracting and things that were appropriate for that area. So that worked out well. You know, moving forward, now that we actually have a regionalized structure and the resources to deliver services in those regions, we really want to focus on smaller group partnerships and work with partners across the state within the regions to really allow us to come in and help be subject matter experts, again, on all things veteran business related in the state of Texas. See a little theme going here, right? Some examples of those partners might be educational institutions such as the attendees here today, veteran-centered groups, you know, the VFW, American Legion, and the whole host of others. Federal agencies, you know, we work with the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers through the VA, the Veteran Business Outreach Centers, of course, SBA and USDA, so federal level programs. And also some local business groups, for example, in Austin, you know, Bunker Labs, Capital Factory. Basically, co-working groups or incubators are the kind of the sweet spot for us. So, how can you find us? Well, oh, there you go. So, if you go on the website now, right, this is where you can find us. Under that particular other services tab, and it'll pull up that little drop down, and we're kind of at the bottom of the list. And if you get that far, this is the website, the web page that you'll come to, and it has a lot of information about there on there about what we do. I don't know exactly what the new format of the website's going to look like, but I can tell you, I am one of 400 employees at TVC that are excited to see that it's going to change. So. Again, this is our contact information, so if you recall who your representative is for your particular county, whether it was blue or yellow or green or whatever, feel free to jot this information down. I would encourage you to reach out to your respective VEP rep and make that contact. Let us help you help veterans get businesses started and make those connections.
All right, how we doing, folks?
Good, how are you?
All right, I'm going to ask again, how we doing, folks? Come on, wake up this afternoon. All right, I promise I'm going to be brief. I'm not going to take up all your time. I'm going to get it across as quickly as I can in a relative way. Hopefully it'll make sense to you. All right, so first thing I'm going to start with, I don't want to focus on this. I want to focus on things you need. The first thing you need is to know this telephone number. If you don't know it, please write it down. If you don't have it in your cell phones already, please put it in there right now. 1-877-273-TALK. 1-877-273-TALK. That is the Veterans Crisis Line. If you press option 1, you'll be able to speak to somebody specifically addressing veterans issues. Why do I put that out? Let me tell you about a phone call I got last night. The phone call I got last night was from Colorado. This young woman was on her way to Texas. She wanted to go see her sister because she got a weird phone call 2 days ago from her sister. She was looking for her sister somewhere out in El Paso. She didn't know where the heck she was. Sister is a U.S. Army veteran. Spent about 13 months in Iraq and about 11 months in Afghanistan. Had some bad stuff happen in Afghanistan and has gone radio silence now. All I had to do was make a phone call in the middle of the night to some volunteers out there with the Military Veteran Peer Network, and they were knocking on the young lady's door to verify she was alive. Now, That's the Military Veteran Peer Network and the power of the Military Veteran Peer Network. And I want you now to kind of look at these numbers because they'll give you an idea of just one piece of what the Veterans Mental Health Program is focused on, which is training and technical assistance for that Military Veteran Peer Network to make sure they know how to take care of us, each other, to know where to go to get contact, to know who to contact, to know when to contact them. So you don't have to be the smart person and know all of your resources available. These Military Veteran Peer Network peer service coordinators that are based in 37 mental health authorities across the state of Texas that cover the entire 254 counties of Texas can make resource connections like you would not believe. So you don't have to be the subject matter expert. How many of you have heard of the Military Veteran Peer Network? That is phenomenal. Thank you. Thank you. Holy crud, that's awesome. How many of you with the SVAs are participating with the Military Veteran Peer Network in some form or fashion? Thank you. That's incredible. Here's something else that your Military Veteran Peer Network can do for you is help you with some volunteer activities in your communities, especially for those vets who, like me, came back, went to college, and did not do so well in the brick and mortar. I was a high school hero turned college zero coming out of high school. I was that football player, that guy, all that good stuff. Went to college and realized you actually have to pay tuition and go to class. It didn't work too well. Went in the military, 20 years later, came out of the military, went back to college, tried again. And I could not relate to a single person in my college classes. We were having conversations. These were kids a lot younger than me, having conversations about philosophical topics in which I wanted to punch people dead in their face. Because you have no relative experience on the planet to have an opinion about what you're talking about. And then I realized I'm not ready for college. Actually, I was ready for college, but I wasn't ready for people. So what does PTSD look like? Anybody? What does PTSD look like? Post-traumatic stress disorder. What does it look like?
Blonde hair, blue eyes.
Blonde hair, blue eyes. Okay. What else? It can be bald. I like that. I like that. Yeah, it's got no color. It's got no creed. It's got no national religion or origin. And it doesn't have an etiology that starts with physiology. It is a combat trauma or a trauma that happens in military training. When I say military-related trauma, something bad happened during military service, which results for a person to now start disassociating from others, trying to get away from situations that might re-trigger experiences they don't want to experience. Start isolating, maybe start self-medicating. You know any of these people? Of course you do. How many of you are college faculty or staff? Okay. How many of you have seen those students fade to black? How many of you asked them why? How many of you are veterans and can have that conversation with them? I want you to start asking the why. We, veterans, can have that conversation with each other. We've got this trust built. Again, this is the nature of the Military Veteran Peer Network. It's based upon trust. And I want you to see up here, when I say based upon trust, I'm going to try to find a pointer. If it turns off, it's my fault. Okay, no pointer. This number down in the lower left-hand corner, that 100,000, that's 100,000 connections made with veterans, by veterans, through that Military Veteran Peer Network in the state of Texas in 1 year. I want you guys to start asking the why. I want you to start having the conversation, but I want you to have it in an informed way. I want you to find out who your Military Veteran Peer Network peer service coordinator is in your area and ask them, can you come give us basic training? Sounds dumb, right? It's not. They're going to talk about some subjects that are going to resonate with some of the people in that room. They're going to talk about some issues and how to have a conversation. And they want to educate your community, not just the veterans. They want to educate the community about us so that it helps people have a better conversation. Okay, that's one facet of what the Veterans Mental Health Program does. We're also focused on those clinical mental health providers, licensed mental health providers. I don't care what, from a doctor of psychiatry down to that qualified mental health professional. I want to focus on them, and I have a provider coordinator for which we now have CEU granting authority through all the licensing boards in Texas related to mental health to provide training and give free CEUs in what we call military-informed care. It's a hybrid. It's a hybrid. This hybrid is both trauma-informed care and military culture on steroids. The difference is we don't talk about all those traumas out there that might have impact. We talk about military-related traumas. Those things that actually happen in military service. We talk about what happens to a family when the service member's been affected. We talk about what happens to the kids when a service member's been affected. We want those providers to understand who they're serving, because what we know out there, just like you as faculty on a college campus know, is that if you don't build the bridge to trust, you can't have the conversation. I can only tell you about my first go-round with a clinician. If I could find the young lady, I'd probably apologize profusely to her. I'm sure she might have left practice because of me. It didn't go well for her. It didn't go well because she wanted to sit down and ask me, what did I want to talk about? Real simple. What are we doing here? What's the game plan? I'm on mission. Sure, I retired, but I've been highly indoctrinated to focus on a mission. And if you don't have a mission for me, we have no conversation. Can you give me a mission? Well, Mr. Kiesling, I thought we no. Let's change this whole conversation now. Let me give you a mission. Your mission is to figure me out with me being quiet now. Does that sound like a good clinical interaction? Not at all. Not at all. So we're focused now on making sure providers, and not just mental health providers, can have good conversations and bridge that gap. Make sure that they can start talking to us in our own language. So when we start talking about fire missions, or when we start talking about all these other things that we like to talk about amongst ourselves, they start having a real good listening ear. I want to connect with your college campuses where you have schools of social work and schools of psychology. And I want to get in front of these young people who are getting ready to graduate with these degrees. And I want to discuss with them military-informed care. They don't need to go through the full 8-hour curriculum. They don't need to get the certification. But I want them to have the basics. I want to bait the hook so that they, if they're making the decision to try to serve the military community, have an informed decision about what they're getting themselves into. And then they actually desire to take care of us the way we would take care of us. So please help me with that, okay? I have someone who is focused on community and faith-based organizations. There's a bunch of collaborations across Texas. Who's part of a community collaborative in your county? If you're at the college campus, you're part of a community collaboration. You just don't know it yet. In your communities, there are community collaborations that are veteran serving. Most of these community collaborations are made up of people who are not veterans. Yet they're trying to help shape the scope of services in a community for veterans. We want to help inform that process. We want to give them the military-informed care necessary for them to understand whom they're serving. We want to work with the faith-based community. Did you know that there are 50,000 registered faith-based organizations with the state comptroller's office in Texas? Is that any surprise to you guys? I mean, we're just a hair away from the Bible Belt. It's no surprise, right? You know how many have veteran ministries? 3%. 3%. Yet, there's a subject out there that nobody really wants to acknowledge quite yet. You're hearing it talked about more and more. You're starting to see it within the VA and within the clinical community a little bit. It's called moral injury. It's called those things that you had to do or see or witness or experience or not act upon when you really needed to, that have just knocked you on your butt. We know already that this is the easiest thing to recover from, given the right person to talk to. and to work through it. The faith-based community in general is that right. Go someplace else outside of the military community to have that conversation. And they want to help, they just don't know how to help. So if you're working with a faith-based organization in some form or fashion, please talk to them about making contact with us. I would love to help. I would love to help with that. That's what Chaplain Craig Combs, he's my community partner and faith-based community liaison, that's what he does, is works with those communities. And then last, I have this other thing called the Justice Involved Veteran Program. So how many of you, what do you think the total number of veterans incarcerated in the state of Texas is on any given day? Throw me some numbers. You're low.
152,000.
You're a little bit high.
151,000.
Approximately 100,000 veterans, all eras, all service branches, you name it, are incarcerated in the state of Texas from a county jail all the way to a state long-term prison facility on any given day. We're trying to help create a system of care around military-related trauma specifically to have diversion away from the criminal justice system and into the treatment and care system. Now it starts with this thing called the gain-centered sequential intercept model that comes out of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Agency's model, national, in which we're working with law enforcement. How many of you have college PDs? Raise your hands, you all do. We're working with college PDs, we're working with municipal PDs, city PDs, counties, and DPS to help educate them on how to do trauma-affected de-escalation for veterans. So I want you to think about it. We have a different kind of skill set. We have a different way of looking at authority. And given some of the experiences that we personally have had, don't come stepping into my house talking about lower your weapon. You better worry about the 15 or 20 I got positioned on you. We want to make sure that that law enforcement officer does three things. One, he doesn't make the news, or she doesn't make the news. Two, they don't kill another vet. And three, that they don't have to live with those decisions. See, our brothers in blue are much like us. They just don't understand us. Now, there's an awful lot of brothers in blue who actually served. Great. And then they got out and they went on that side of the force, and now they're looking at us with this different set of eyes. We want to make sure they understand us and put them through this 24-hour curriculum that is intensive scenario-based training at the end, taught by veterans. We want to make sure they get that training. We want to make sure that there are magistrates out there that understand and know how to identify veterans who are in the incarceration system, just got arrested, just got magistrated, now sitting in a county jail. We want somebody in there talking to that vet. And we want to help them make sure they stop asking the questions of, are you a veteran? You think an active duty person is going to say yes? No. Did you or do you serve in the military? Think an active duty person is going to say yes? No. Why? What happens if the chain of command finds out I'm sitting in jail right now? But bad stuff happens in jails. We want to get somebody in there to talk to them, at least have a conversation. Then we want to work with the veteran treatment courts across the state. Right now there's 36 of them. Legislation allows for tons of them. Texas Veterans Commission Fund for Veterans Assistance funds many of them. There's plenty of avenues for this. And there's 2 regional veteran treatment courts now where they got a traveling judge who goes around to the veteran treatment courts themselves to actually help them adjudicate these cases and get folks away from jail and into treatment when applicable. Finally, we have a veteran treatment dorm. Yes, this thing actually exists. It's been around for 3 years at the Travis County State Jail, which is a prison, in which we're working with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to get veterans who are incarcerated and have been trauma affected as a result of their military service into this unit with 24 other veterans, or 23 other veterans, so that they can then start working on themselves, so that they don't go back. And finally, probation and parole or community supervision, working with them to, again, understand us. So when you look at this slide, what the slide represents is a whole bunch of work by a whole bunch of people, primarily volunteers out in the communities. Folks on your campuses, in your SVAs, in your classrooms, who've been trained by us to just have a listening ear. My mission here is real simple. It's real simple. I would like each of you to get to know your military veteran peer network coordinator in your service area, in your footprint, around all your satellite campuses, and ask that person to come and give you MVPN basic training. If you want your faculty or staff to learn about military-informed care, which again is a hybrid of trauma-informed care from the military trauma perspective and military cultural competency, not based on here's what an officer is and here's what an NCO is, but here's what it takes to be a warrior and here's what the warrior culture really is about, ask us to come to that training and conduct that training for you. Because I want your faculty to have good interactions with the veterans who are on campus. And I want your veterans to have a great interaction with the faculty. And to be able to trust them so that they don't wind up like me, not able to complete a traditional didactic learning experience, but rather having to do it all distance learning and online because I can't interact with folks I don't understand. Last, I want to leave you with this. I want you to look up this video. Who is familiar with Syracuse University? Who's familiar with Michael Haney? I would like you to find his TED Talk. I would like you to find his TED Talk. Again, Michael Haney. And he talks about getting to know Tim. I'm not the Tim specifically he's talking about, but I so easily could be. Tim's only request in this world is for you to get to know him. Please take the time to watch that video, get the time to get to know your Military Veteran Peer Network coordinator, and if you have any questions about anything I've talked about, here's how to get a hold of me. Again, please write this down. 512-463-6091. That is the primary number to the Veterans Mental Health Program. Or if you want to contact me directly, 512-956-3438. I'm sorry, I don't call myself very often. Again, 512-956-3438. And lastly, if you're looking for us, you can go to the TVC's website or you can go to milvetpeer.net.